housekeeping thing. Before we
Okay.
actually start. Just one quick housekeeping thing for everybody who wants to do a public comment. We've got little cards in the thing in the back right behind the woman standing there in the hat. And if everybody wants to do that, if you could just put your name on there, because we have to do minutes and like
Name where you live.
it'll be a torturous thing if we have to like go do the video, do this. So everybody just
Kimberly is here.
Kimberly's here. Oh, awesome. So just fill out your name on the card and then just hand the card to Dan when you come up to give your public comment.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Awesome. Great. All right. Welcome everyone to the August 14th meeting of the Midcoast Community Council. We've got a full house tonight. I think it's going to be a very interesting night. Very excited to hear everything that everyone has to say. To kick this off, Kimberly, would you do the roll?
Sure. Greg,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Dan,
Here.
Anne.
She'll be here an hour late. She told me that.
Okay, Claire,
Here.
and myself here, Gus.
Here. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's jump into Board of Supervisors report. Marisol, you want to kick that off?
I have to unmute her or she can unmute herself. She's ready. She's ready.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's good to be back. I was gone for 2 weeks, so I'm still working on catching up on some of my tasks. Tonight's announcements, I'm gonna, the first announcement is basically that the supervisor's been notified that by Seton that they hope they can open the ER by spring or as soon as possible. So we're working on that with Congresswoman Eshu's office, Berman, and Becker's office as well. The second announcement is just a comment regarding the GGNRA number. So I can wait until then, but otherwise, if you guys want me to give that update now.
Yeah, you might as well do that now.
Okay. So the supervisor is working with Congresswoman Eshu, or had been working, so that the pushing for the horses and stables to remain on GGNRA land. And that's the only update I have so far on that, and more details to come.
Thanks. Yes, does any questions for myself from the council? Nope. Any questions from the public? I see one. Let's go to Jeff first and then Sid. Go ahead, Jeff.
Is this the time for public comments?
On GGRRNA, I thought that was later.
Yeah, no, we're doing just questions for Marisol on her updates. Right.
Sorry, the reason why I give my announcements mostly at the beginning is because I'm only going to be staying for an hour for the rest of the meeting, and I have to catch up after every meeting to listen to the latter conversations.
If you don't know, Marisol is the aide for Supervisor Ray Mueller. So any questions?
Yeah, we're taking questions for the county officials who will be giving us updates at the beginning. If you have other comments for the council, you can email them.
Great. All right, Sid.
Thank you.
Marisol, are you going to be attending MCC meetings in the future?
In person or through?
I mean, attending for Ray.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so next time, can you, after I ask my question, can you get back to us? Apparently, at a recent fire board meeting, the
Oops.
Carlisle, you cut out.
Yeah. She's muted.
Oh,
I'm not muted.
okay.
I didn't mute myself anyway. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Somebody named Carol has their name on the screen. I don't know who that is. Anyway. So at a fire board meeting, the fire marshal said that the Big Wave LLC was planning to possibly sell their parcels, the remaining parcels to Mid-Penn housing, but those parcels were zoned for commercial zoning and not for residential. So could you please let Ray Mueller know that the public is concerned that there's possibly going to be some rezoning involved there, or find out if that's not the case?
Okay, and you said they were
Where the big weight parcels are?
yeah, sorry, you said they were zoned for what? For
They're
housing?
zoned as commercial,
Commercial. Okay.
and it's near waterfront. It's on M1, light industrial, but it's in the near the harbor.
Okay.
It's between Pillar Ridge and the harbor. So he's aware of where it is anyway,
Okay.
but would you kind of get back to us and let us know if county planning is going to pull a fast one and turn it into residential, please?
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
I'll relay
Appreciate
it to him.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Any other questions for Marisol? Nope. Awesome.
Gus, before you
Yes.
move on, I forgot to make my declaration.
Go ahead. Sure.
So, just so everyone knows, I'm attending remotely under the Just Cause provisions of AB 2449 because of the caregiving needs of my parent. I'm attending from a private room with a closed door, and there is no one in the house under 18 years of age.
Thank you. All right, reports from any other government officials. I see Harvey here. Harvey, you got anything for us?
He's muted.
I do indeed. At the last special meeting of the city council, we received a petition from members of the public, and I know it's of some relevance to some MCC council members. The petition had to do with 555 Kelly, and at the request of our city attorney, we had to deny the petition as being illegal. So the reason that it was illegal is that it was an attempt to deny a permit as opposed to some legislative act. So we said that this was not a legal petition, and even though there were plenty of signatures on it, it didn't go anywhere. So that's the information that's relevant, I think, for some council members on MCC. I had already told some council members that this was going to happen, and it happened. I'm sorry. A lot of effort went into that, but it was for naught. The other thing that happened at our last special council meeting was we unanimously approved the housing element to be sent to HLC. HDC. HLC is the leadership conference, and HDC is the state housing development group. So that now is in the hands of, or will be after the comment period is over. And then we expect to receive some comments back, just like we did last year. And then based on that, we'll probably have to resubmit. But it's really important that we get the housing element secured, because without that, the state has the right to deny us grants. And in the worst case, they could even have the builder's remedy agreed to, and that would allow us to force us to agree to all the housing requests. So we're really concerned that the housing element does get verified as soon as possible. We also started to approve a design for an archway that will be put near Highway 92 over Main Street. It's the first small step in our streetscape master plan, which we had approved the previous meeting, which is just a conceptual design, but one of the first steps would be to see if we can get the archway design approved and actually built in the not too distant future. So that's on the radar. And the last thing on my list is the Summer's End Music Festival, which we had hoped we could have at Carter Park. It's going to be at the IDES Hall because Carter Park isn't going to be complete by September 21st. So put that on your calendar. Summer's End, September 21st, IDES Hall. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, well, Harvey, I hope your housing element gets approved, because there's no more fun game than being asked to do an unreasonable amount of housing, and then when you can't do it, being saddled with builder's remedy instead. It's such a fun game we play here in California. Does anybody have questions for Harvey? Council? No? All right. Then I guess I give you over to Sid.
Harvey, when I attended that meeting via Zoom, I'm pretty sure I heard them say builder's remedy is not applicable on the coast. Isn't that what they said?
It's just not clear because of SB 729, I think. So we don't know, but let's hope it's a moot point because if we get the housing element approved, then it's irrelevant.
And is that the reason you left in the church parcel? Because there were a lot of people speaking out against leaving that church parcel in on the surplus
church,
land.
Okay, the church parcel was listed as an opportunity site. It was not listed as something that the could be built necessarily, only with the approval of the landowner, which is the church. So a lot of people had the misapprehension that that we were going to take over the church parcel or stop a parochial school from being built. That's farthest from the truth. All that the housing element listed was that it was a potential site in the future, which covers the next 8 years of this housing cycle, as a potential site for affordable housing, but nobody was going to take the church property without their approval. So there were a lot of people there, but they were under a misapprehension or a wrong idea.
Oh, they seemed all riled up, and it was on the front page of the Daily Journal. So I guess the misapprehension was pretty widespread. It wasn't a really good look for the city. But I guess the fact that you guys left it on there still had them pretty riled up. I wouldn't have left it on there myself. I guess you felt you had to or something. I didn't understand why you left it on there with that many people speaking out against it.
I think I explained the reason. We thought that this was an opportunity, not a requirement. And you know, if I had to pick the single best location to build affordable housing in all of Half Moon Bay, it would be on that parking lot behind the church. It's close to services, it's large enough, it's flat, it doesn't have any environmental constraints, but it belongs to the church. And unless the church agrees to it, nobody's going to build on it except them.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Harvey.
You're welcome.
Great. Then do we have any other government officials here? Okay. Then on we go to Council Fowler reports. Claire.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that I got this information out because there's a lot of misunderstanding about Seton Coast side, and I do have some updates on that. And here's a lot of people, so maybe we can dispel some of the rumors. Dr. Penrose from the city of Half Moon Bay, Dr. President from Dignity, who's putting together the interim urgent care center, and myself went to a 2.5-hour tour of the facility last week. We were shown around by the people from medical, from legal, from construction, from the insurance adjuster's office, and from nursing, from the entire hierarchy of people that are working on Seton Coast side, and it was very enlightening. Apparently, what actually happened there is when they had the damage that originally had them shut down, it not only damaged certain rooms, but it also damaged the entire drainage system on the top of the building. And the attic section was completely infiltrated with water. All of their electrical systems, all of their communication systems, everything was completely shot. They started to fix it, thinking maybe they could just fix up the damaged rooms. They found out that the more they did, the more that needed to be done. And they're not fooling around. It really did need to be done. There's asbestos through everything. There's water damage through everything. But they do plan to reopen it. They are fixing it up. It looks really nice. They're upgrading things. They've ordered a lot of equipment and paid for it, and it's sitting there waiting to be installed. So I think they really mean it, that they do mean to reopen. They've got new X-ray machines. They've got new patient beds, etc. The beds that were stacked up outside, the motherboards on them were all fried when the electricity went out. They were all essentially e-waste, and they couldn't get a vendor to take them because there were so many of them, which is why they sat there for so long. It was not the wasteful stuff that we thought it was. So they are planning to reopen as a skilled nursing facility when they're finished. There are legal things that have to be taken care of before they can reopen, because the current decree from the Attorney General is that it has to have an emergency room when it reopens. However, as they look back into the legal ramifications, they never had a legal emergency room. They had something that was operating as an emergency room in a surgical center. And what they want to do is get permission to open an urgent care 24 hours a day with robust medical backup, with X-ray, some urgent care beds, and lab, and good quality medical personnel there when they do reopen. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know, but that's what they're trying to do, and it's very complicated. We are getting an issue involved in this as well. Meanwhile, back in Half Moon Bay, the money that the county gave to Dignity Health to set up urgent care pilot program is still pending. They just hired somebody to run it. It probably will not be open until at least October, and it will not be open 24 hours a day. It'll be open about 5 days a week, but it will provide urgent care. And the hope is that this will be a bridge to go back to Seton. When Seton opens up, it has more quality urgent care. So I don't think there's anything strange going on up there. I think it's just very complicated. And I am hopeful that things will work out. I want to add as well that the Board of Supervisors just authorized $900,000 to Family Services Agency.
Are we getting a fire alarm? Who pulled the fire alarm? This. Fine. Ladies, we may get some firemen here, so
Listen to that now.
No, I'm going to turn it off, but I don't.
Oh, were we? We had just done healthcare. So did we have any questions for Claire from the council? No? Okay. Any questions for Claire from the public on the whole Seton thing? No? Okay, great. Then let's move on to public comment. Greg, did you want to summarize that?
I have two emails I'm supposed to read. In the interest of time, I'll speed through it. From Steve Terry, we have a public comment on the lighting at the Fairlawn View School. He wants to voice a concern about the lighting that's recently been installed. There are parking lot lights on tall poles. There are building light fixtures to illuminate the sidewalk and the area around it. Both are excessively bright and shine quite a bit of light off the property. The colors are also very bright in the blue range and not keeping with the surrounding community, for example, in comparison to the streetlights, which are much warmer color. This is especially concerning since the community so recently had a series of meetings with the school district superintendent to address this very issue at the new Elgin Elementary School. It seemed for those discussions that the community and the district were aligned in minimizing the impact of exterior lighting as described in 5 Principles of Responsible Outdoor Lighting published by Dark Sky International. So we have to wonder whether the district was genuine, and we need to follow up on the lighting plan for Elgin School to ensure that it still abides by that agreed to community discussion. We're still suffering from the Elgin Fire Station 41 that installed excessively bright lighting non-compliance. Please consider this issue on a future agenda. In that agenda, please try to include a review of the lighting at Fairlawn View and what can be done to mitigate it, a follow-up review of El Granada, and a follow-up review of the lighting on the fire station. Okay, and then we also had an email from Hillary Serrer, and this is really on the GTR. So I can wait and ask that. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so do we have any other public comments on items which are not on the agenda? So not Harbor and not GGNR.
We have several hands.
Yes.
I have somebody in the room.
On something that is not Harbor or GGNR. Okay, great. Who is that? Step up to the mic, and then we'll do the ones on the Zoom.
Are you gonna do the timer thing?
Assume about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes.
Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Sunny Hibbets, and I'm here on behalf of my family as the Hibbets family, who has the alpaca ranch, Alpacas by the Sea. And just like Steve said in the email, these light installations that are at Fairlawn View School are very, very bright. And I just want to show you guys a little photograph really quick of my property right now. And I just wanted to offer some solutions to that. This is what it looks like at my house over my animals. I have 11 animals, and I've worked on a variety of ranches, and this is really important to talk about because their health is impacted. And also, by the way, this is what it looks like inside my house too. So my family's impacted. My family plans to retire here, and I've thought to be able to do that. And how does this affect animals, livestock in particular? Basically, this type of lighting affects humans, but it affects animals by disrupting their natural melatonin cycle through the light exposure, causing sleep deprivation, disruption, impacting reproductive cycles, immune function, growth and development, feeding patterns, and stress levels. And as a rancher, I have to protect all of those things. So I'm just asking through Midcoast if there's any way to get some support from the county or the state to talk about replacing those lights with red lights, with dimming functions. I understand if lights need to be on at night for daylight savings time, as well as something like a Boy Scout meeting, but on all the time is not only a waste of money, but it is negatively impacting my animals and, pushing away natural animal life. So I think that's all I have to say. It's a very important issue. And we have other ranch issues that are on the docket tonight that are also very important. And ranching is very critical to this community. And we just got to keep remembering that when we make these decisions, because I wasn't informed about this at all. And that's why I have to be here now to talk about it, because nobody told me the type of lighting was happening on my ranch with light scattering, light pollution, blue light reflecting onto the ground, then reflecting onto the white roof, scattering onto my property, light trespassing. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you. I know I got support about that. So thank you. I just want to bring it up, and I'll talk to whoever I have to talk to make that happen, because that's what I got to do. Thanks.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Then let's do, okay. So we have lots of in the Zoom here. Let's actually start with Lisa Ketchum.
You jumped the gun. So on July 20th, I just want to let you know. So I posted on the MCC website and Facebook page about the 3 seats open on the council for the November 5th election. Today was the last day of the extended candidate filing period, and no candidates have filed for the 3 MCC openings. That's it.
Okay. All right, then let's go Len next.
Yes, the appeal, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lynn.
I'm reporting on the appeal for the multi-asset project for Highway 1. The current state is the appeal is filed. The commission staff has considered it as a significant issue and beginning a process of discussions with the county and with Caltrans, the applicant. I got an update from them just in terms of overall progress and set an expectation that sometime after the middle of September, Catherine Slater Carter and I would be involved in a discussion with the commission staff about what's coming forward. This is background discussion on materials in development. And from that, it would lead to a staff report and a hearing before the commission, most likely in November.
Thanks, Len. Appreciate the work you're doing on that. Let's go Melinda next and then Natalie.
Hi, thank you. So yeah, I'm commenting on the excessive lighting issue at Fairlawn View School as well. And I forgot, yeah, there's going to be a lot of animals involved besides just our local wildlife. So I'm so glad that the owner of the alpaca spoke out. I wish that I would like to request that MCC put it on their agenda for the next meeting to be discussed. I think it's an immediate issue that needs to be addressed. Many residents of El Granado were very concerned about the excessive lighting planned at El Granado Elementary School for its remodel. And we had a long discussion with the school district and designers to make sure all lighting was in compliance with the Dark Sky Initiative because it was not planned that way at first. Wow. Our concerns did seem to hold up the process, and they agreed to reduce the excessive lighting to be in compliance to make it safe for the environment and less obstructive to neighbors. My question is, why did the school district ignore our same public concern for Fairlawn View? It's the same school district. These guidelines should apply everywhere on the coast. We need to be very careful with our development on the coast and with the lighting we add because of the sensitive habitat that we are so lucky to live near. Lighting affects our Pacific migratory flyway area, wildlife ecosystems, and public health as well. It affects the same things in animals that it does in us pretty much. In the Fairlawn area, the wildlife we impact there are, with all those trees around, the birds of prey, which help keep our rat population down, bats that are very beneficial mosquito eaters and pollinators, hummingbirds, bees, and many other insects, pollinators, and our local bird populations. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda. Natalie and then Deborah.
Hi, I would also like to request that the excessive lighting issue be put on the next agenda. It's incredibly important for all of the animals, both domestic and wildlife, that we have dark skies, that they're able to sleep, they're able to regenerate their melatonin. As the first speaker said, it's really a very delicate ecosystem that we have here, and it's currently bat maternity season still, and we are in the Great Pacific Flyway for migratory birds. So it's really important that we try and find an alternative solution, whether that's dimming them, having reflectors so they just point down, and like changing the hue to be warmer instead of blue, and to ideally red would be great, but the also to have like auto off, so even if they have to be on for security, so that to have a so that they turn off after a certain period of time, they come on with activity. Thank you very much for considering adding this to the agenda.
Thank you, Natalie. Deborah? You're muted, Deborah.
Hello. I also sent an email to the council about the Fairlawn View upgrades. In addition to the lighting, there's some other issues with a very obtrusive white roof that is really unsightly in the neighborhood. And we never got the details for the perimeter fencing. And we'd like to know what the plans are for that, because the community uses the athletic field and the playground there during off hours. And we want to be sure that we're not excluded from that use continuing. And I just think there really needs to be a dialogue here. Supervisor McPetridge, back in May of 2023, when the council had a prior meeting on this matter, promised us that the lights would be in compliance to dark sky. Unfortunately, he's left, so we no longer have that connection, but I think we need to connect with the current management of the school and have some dialogue about the changes. So thank you for agendizing that. Thank you.
Thanks, Devin.
I wanted to say something if I can.
Well, I just wanted to mention that we've had some problems with the Division of State Architects. The California Division of State Architects is responsible for permitting and zoning on schools, not the planning department. So we had a related incident where the sewer and water connections at Farallon View had to be held up and the water cut off because nobody had bothered to check whether the connections were still valid after 60 years. Planning department hadn't been involved. The Division of State Architects has nothing in their procedures to check that. So I'm guessing the Division of State Architects is the entity here that has probably permitted this lighting, but we will pursue it.
I wanted to add or expand to what Greg just said. Actually, the MCC usually oversees and makes comments on any permits on any development in the Midcoast. Farallon View specifically, it's not for all schools. It was Farallon View was under a different jurisdiction, and we never got a chance to comment on their plans. We did comment on the Granada plans, and we were hoping that what we commented on there would be extrapolated to Farallon. Apparently, it wasn't. I think we shouldn't wait until the next meeting. I think that the MCC should have some delegation of people to talk with the school board about this before the next meeting, and then perhaps also invite them.
Okay, let's talk about that at the end. Okay. What you do for your stuff. All right. Sid, you want to make a public comment on something not on the agenda?
Yeah, this is not on the agenda, but I asked Clemens from MWSD to check in on the hospital water pipes, et cetera, because they're also under state department of whatever. They don't have to get their permits from the San Mateo County Planning Department either. And because that's what Ray was very upset with when they started remodeling without getting permits through the county. And, Clemens was told to back off because they don't, he has no control over what they're doing up there at Seton either. So I don't know, hopefully they're doing a good job up there. There's nothing we can do about it. But, and while I'm on the subject, we didn't know anything about not being able to use the Farallon View parking lot for our quarterly recycle. Even the board members weren't told that we couldn't have it on this last weekend or the weekend before. And it was the very last minute that we were using the Burnham Strip, and a lot of people didn't even know where the Burnham Strip was. So we're sorry about that. It wasn't on our newsletter. It wasn't published. I think Scott put it on next door at the very last minute. Thank you.
Thanks, Sid. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, great. Then let's push on to consent agenda, which the only thing we have is the financial report. I want to thank Scott for putting that together. Once a year, we have to submit to the county a report on all of our expenses, and Scott pulled all that information together. So does anybody need to pull it?
It's not posted on the website, and I have not seen it.
Oh, it is. You only sent it to me.
I only sent it to you because you're on the committee with me. So
Brown Act. Isn't that wonderful?
Can we put it up on the screen?
what was I supposed to do? Send it to everybody?
Well, it didn't get posted because due to the Brown Act, you didn't send it to me.
Can we put it on the screen and vote on it?
No, I think
we'll have to push it to the
next meeting.
So let me make a comment about that. I wanted to submit this to the county as is.
Okay.
And I went to the county and I talked to 3 different people. There's no defined way they would like to have this submitted, but they said to be on the safe side, they said you need to come up with all the receipts. So I will be sending you an email to the group saying I need a receipt for a number of things that I don't have. So
Okay,
And so I will add those
okay,
to it and you can post it and we'll vote on it next time.
great, awesome. Keep us moving then. Well, 7 minutes behind schedule. Then let's go on to the regular agenda, which item number 1 is the harbor. From Harbor District with some of his team and take it away, folks.
Could I introduce you perhaps?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I want to give the context to what we're doing.
Yeah.
As we just talked about, the MCC does review proposals for development in the Midcoast. And the harbor has a proposal for development, which was referred to us to comment on. You don't even, there is no application yet. This is a pre-application discussion. There will be a pre-application hearing in a few weeks. It will be more formal than this. But in the meantime, we have been asked to make preliminary comments about our take on what we hear tonight. And Greg and I have put together some preliminary comments, which we may want to vote to send after we hear from Jim and ask questions. Camille Leong, who is the planner, is also, I think, in attendance online.
She's right.
Oh, there she is. Okay. So that's the context of what we're doing. And Jim has graciously agreed to present the project.
Thanks, guys. Take it away.
I will get that fixed tomorrow with hope. I'm Jim Pruitt. I'm the general manager of the Harbor District. A few years ago, we were looking at transitioning the existing Phillip Point Harbor Retail Center, which used to have Castellan Restaurant in it. It still has the Maverick Shop, still has the fish shop in it. Transforming that building, bringing it up to modern standards. And as we were doing that in the ad hoc committee for the Harbor Board, looked at the design and what we considered multiple different locations at public meetings. It was decided that working with the Coastal Commission and everybody else, the only place we can put it at that time would be on top of the current building. So we demolished the current building, put in a new building. That was before the Harbor District had the opportunity to purchase new land above the launch ramp, which we now own, and some land on the Birmingham Strip, which we now own. So things from the Harbor Board side has also changed. And what I'll say is that nothing in this plan is finalized. It's a plan, it's preliminary, and we're putting it out to the public for comment because we want the public to come back and tell us what's going on here at the MCC. And then on September 17th, there will be another meeting hosted by the county at Oceana Hotel.
That date is awesome.
That date is still tentative. Well, I signed the contract for that date, so hopefully it holds. And that meeting, if it happens on the 17th, will be open to the public, and we encourage everybody to attend that meeting to give us your thoughts. In developing the plan for this, we took a lot of consideration to maintain the view corridor through that area. Dark skies through that area. My pet peeve for the dark skies in this area is why we let the air. Are you done with these fries? Complains about that. I complain about it all the time because it means my shit. So we're very excited about the opportunity here of bringing more retail to Phillip Point Harbor, giving the harbor a feeling of a community meeting space, making a little bit more open space for the harbor for people to come down and enjoy the waterfront, access the beaches. We're doing tremendous work on cleaning up the water and the beaches at Phillip Point. So we're very excited with that. I'm not an engineer. I'm a lawyer, sorry. But I did bring the architect who did help us design this building. And I'm going to turn the floor over to him so he can show you some renditions of what we came up with and which direction we're heading. One other comment is I had a meeting with the current tenants in the building. So the owners of Maverick Surf Shop, the Bait Shop, and Pelagic Restaurant Group. All three of them as a group love the idea. They think building another building is fantastic. They hate the idea of tearing down the existing building. They're strongly encouraging the Harbor District to leave the existing building where it is and build another building somewhere else on property. So I'll be bringing back that to my board at a later stage. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
That's a horrible introduction. Thank you.
Anyway, I have a lot, can I share now? Am I shareable? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
You're
and share.
co-host, you should be able to.
I closed my laptop when I left when we were on fire, so I think you need to make me a host again.
Well, I guess we'll have to cancel you.
So I have a lot of graphics and materials present. I'm going to go through some of it quickly because some may be redundant. If anyone on the committee has questions, please let me know and I'll be glad to pause. And of course, when we're done going through the images and the discussion, I expect you'll have a question and answer period. So this is, this doesn't move. Okay, so it's interesting.
Yeah, can you flag that?
It does. Oh, okay, I can do it. Oh, there we go. Oh, this is just fine. That's perfect, actually. That will. Thank you so much. Appreciate the assistance. Okay. Where is the go full screen button here? That there. Someplace. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for having us here. I'm going to try to be somewhat merciful and go through these in relatively straightforward. Much of this information you folks already know. This is an illustration of where the site is, which is, of course, on top of and behind the existing buildings. And then this is a comparison of the existing building footprint and then the proposal scheme. This scheme was originally was very different. The first time we presented it, it was just a single bar, more or less smack over the existing building. The genesis of this scheme originally was to create a more public gathering space in the center, so that this really became more than just a strip in front of the parking area, and also to hold out the promise of potentially staging this project so tenants might be able to stay there during construction. That proved to be painfully and eye-wateringly expensive. But the scheme offered so many advantages that we're just keeping that as the current design, and business continuity will be worked out with Jim. So this is the lower level proposed plan. You can see I'll come back to this in the landscape drawings, but basically the building is two L-shaped masses separated at the upper level by an open plaza. This is the upper level plan. You can see that there's the downstairs. We imagine a mix of tenants, some retail, possibly some food service, some other services. The upper level, very likely two food service tenants separated by a shared plaza, which would be public, so anyone could wander up from down below or from the upper parking space. In fact, that plaza can be used as a way of accessing the rest of the harbor facilities as sort of a walkthrough. And it also, of course, reduces the apparent massing on the north side of the building from Capistrano. And those are the plans. We've had a few public hearings, and we've walked many people through the site. And what we've heard clearly and repeatedly is small, local, and funky. In fact, we may make a T-shirt to that effect for the public hearing. We've been down to Pescadero. We've gone to Princeton area many times. Local businesses have benefited from our site visits. And of course, we've looked elsewhere for some ideas to embellish this with. We do share the downfall of most architects who are still alive these days is we all think of ourselves as modernists. So we kind of had to kick that crown off of our heads and get a little bit more local and a little bit more small and a little bit more what would happen if this happened as a kind of a local development all by itself. So our idea was that this building will present as a single story from the north. And that's on this drawing, north is to the right. And then as it steps down to the parking area of the harbor facilities, then you realize there's actually two stories. There's a lower level that's down at parking. It's a little higher than existing parking to avoid 2100 sea level rise issues. And then we're working hard to keep floor to ceiling levels pretty small so that the apparent mass on the north side can be pretty small. You can see it's pretty diminutive compared to the Oceana development right behind it. That's the hotel rooms on the right and the bigger bulk of the hotel on the left. These are some existing and then proposed views, and we actually have some Google Earth images of this that I don't think are in this right now. But that's essentially a rendition of the view currently, and that would be the rendition if this project were built. Sort of two bungalow size. Stop share. Share. I don't see that. Okay, anyway. And you can see the view corridor that we're trying to maintain between the two buildings. Then this is a view as if you came down on the east side of the building on Johnson Pier Road. This would be the appearance of the building. We studied various roof shapes, flat roofs with huge overhangs was our first, which we still feel very fondly about, but we kind of try and get it at the typical proportion of a oversized beach bungalows, this very shallow pitched roof. So we thought that would be appropriate. This is a rough rendition of what it would look like from the south on the parking lot side, looking back towards the north. Again, you can see the slot, and then there's a balcony that hugs most of the buildings on this side. And then trying to break up the massing with little pieces that will make interesting little spaces for dining on the upper floors, for places to gather and so on. This is to give you a sense of the size of the courtyard, and we'll come back to this with the landscape drawings. So if you approach this from the north side, this would be, there'd be a ramp and a stair from a passenger drop-off area. And one reason we show this with each shop on one side and a canoe off the other is part of the development idea is that as tenants are identified, they would contribute a huge amount to the identity of those buildings. There will be, of course, written design guidelines, but I would encourage the district to ask people to paint on the building, and when their lease is up in 10 years, replace the siding and paint it something else. Again, you can see the view in the distance. That plaza is large enough. There could be events there. There could be small vendors with a, push cart, things like that. The idea is to allow for places for activity. We're showing currently wall-mounted lights that I'll point down. As we develop this, we would, make sure that we have cutoff optics. You have the challenge here, which, I hate to say this out loud, but it's a very high moisture environment. Any light is going to glow a little bit at some time. So we have to work some way where obviously retail tenants want to be in a building that's visible. No one wants to hang a big bright blimp in the middle of the view. And then this is a view from that upper plaza. If you're real closer, one of our earlier renderers, we had someone selling oysters at this bench at the front. Again, obviously, we want to keep that view open to the coast and the marina beyond. Well, lemonade, mussels. Anyway, the idea also here is those two upper spaces would have, residential for lack of a better word, but small massing, and each one would have its own outdoor space because obviously the view here is amazing. So the outdoor spaces, they both face south towards the water. One face has a south easterly view also towards the other east end of Half Moon Bay, and the other one is mostly to the south. And this would be a view from the western tenant space dining deck. And this is a view from the eastern space dining deck. And we're hoping to have some kind of opening in that roof, which may disappear at some point as we wrestle with the fact that birds are around here. Or it might be glass. So, and then again, in trying to keep with the small local funky, it's a two-story building, and the whole building is 14,000 square. So I guess it's only 14,000 square feet. 16,000 square feet. Thank you. That's not a huge building, but it's bigger than a house. So we're trying to, in putting materials on the building, we're trying to follow two rules. One is wherever possible, mostly materials that would patina over time and show the effects of time without completely disintegrating. That basically means board formed concrete or unpainted shingles that are stained, or Corten steel or corrugated metal. And in some places for a bang of color might be painted corrugated metal. So one of these renders shows shingles that are kind of overly long. They're kind of Julia Morgan proportion shingles that might be 4 inches wide and 3 feet long. And a wall of that has a really nice character to it that will age over time and kind of feel what we think sort of nice and approachable. This is a sort of more detailed view of that section. You can see the upper level where people from the upper drop-off area would approach the building and then again step down. An important aspect of this is to deal with the sea level rise targets for San Mateo County, which is project the building's use to the year 2100 and superimpose on that the 100-year worst case flood scenario. That puts our finished plaza level at plus 16. Currently, it's at plus 4.5. Currently, I think it's actually currently it's at about plus 14.5. So it would be currently inundated in that scenario. So we're raising it up about between 18 and 21 inches to make sure we're at the correct level. And obviously the upper floor level is fine. These are the more sort of developed elevations. The north elevation, which is what you would see from as you come down from Highway 1, is the top level, more or less one-story massing. You can see the site sort of cascades down to the left as it joins up with Johnson Pier Road, and then the two-story aspect in the center. We may or may not try and get this bold with some of the color, but where we have a chance to have some small areas of color, and if the tenant is identified, and we certainly hope that tenants are identified before this thing goes to construction, we'd have the opportunity to work with them, or their individual designers might in contributing to the character of the buildings. And then this would be a view as you come down Johnson Pier Road. That obviously would probably be a restaurant and a surf shop, but we wanted to just kind of communicate that the idea is no backlit signs, no halo signs. Some neon would be great. Otherwise, kind of down home identification of what the tenants are. We don't have a detailed signage or graphic program yet, except for that. Obviously, the tenants in the lower area will have signage programs, probably blade signs or hanging signs near the stores. I'd like to take a second to go through the landscape architects. I think they've done a great job working with Sasaki Walker Associates in San Francisco. And they on this overall site plan shows a few things that are kind of important. One is the existing condition currently has 2 bars of parking up there. One of them we're eliminating in order to create that northern area of retail. And then that wipes out is probably not a word I should use. That reduces parking because there's currently parking up there. However, what we proposed to do was reinstate the parking on the southern edge of the building, which used to be there some 10 years or so ago, because now we're going to create this sort of more humanely proportioned plaza area, and we don't really need what used to be parking. There's now a big sidewalk to still be the mother of all sidewalks. So we actually have an approximate balance in the parking with this project. This shows pedestrian and well, this is pedestrian circulation. You can see on the left here, one thing that we're looking at is providing a pedestrian path from the sidewalk along Capistrano to the upper area of the complex. So if people are walking up and want to go to one of those upper tenant places, they can take that path. It's got a little S curve and then take a ramp up or stairs up. And then from there, they can either go to either tenant or go downstairs to the public plaza area. And these are some colored blocks. One thing we're trying to look at is, again, in identifying the specifics of the places, each tenant we would like to look as as sort of individual as possible, keep furnishing somewhat informal and colorful. And then that would be, by the way, so that back one, that would, the graphics on these are a little backwards. That would be the images on the right would really relate to the tenant spaces on the downstairs on the main plaza, which is the lower level. This one at the upper level would be, we imagine, frankly, we have big tenant spaces on the upper space. So the approach to those, this would be a passenger drop off for however that might work. These will be a little less commercial looking, sort of more finished landscape elements. And then the landscape planning palette will be mostly sort of celadons, coastal greens, agave, cypress. I'm not sure if cypress is native up here. They import them from Pebble Beach. But basically try and use local planting palette as much as possible to really plant the building inside and literally plant the building inside. And other elements that will be in that plaza is we want to be very flexible with the plaza. So the big furnishings are all movable. And on the lower right, we're showing a little raised stage, which hopefully would be actually used occasionally as an impromptu performance space for musicians. And there might be public gatherings of some sort there. Again, more of the sort of celadon color palette. Lighting, downlights. I put the big red stripes through here because everyone liked these little bollards until we all realized they all have little lights at the top, and that would not be a good idea. So we're very sensitive to that. But that needs to be developed. And I don't know a magic bullet for how not to make fog glow. I mean, there is one magic bullet, which is keep the light sources as low as possible. It's hard to do in parking lots, but can be done. And then we're just starting to look at graphics. So the graphics here are probably a little more modern than a lot of the building ideas, but this kind of gives you a sense. We won't have all those signs in the center that look like backlit signs. We will not have. And then, we have, see if I twitch a little bit when Jim tells how flexible we are. We've gone a little further far here. So that's the existing site plan. And then this is the proposed plan with areas identified for drainage and stormwater treatment and so on. And this, yeah. So this shows a prior scheme, but I wanted to basically kind of let you know that we are very concerned about sea level rise issue. That blue line there is the 100-year sea level rise issue. This is a prior scheme. The current scheme floor level will be at that blue line, not below it. So that's when we decided to do that, the whole project team kind of breathed a sigh of relief, said, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I believe that's all I have.
Awesome. That was a great presentation. Appreciate it. Sure. I appreciate the the evident thoughtfulness that's going into things like the lack of pedestrian access, sea level. One question I have, which I think is also one of the ones I saw in the chat, is, this looks like it'll be kind of expensive to build. Is it?
Everything's expensive.
Yes. Yeah. It's the times we live in. It's obviously difficult for a business to make it work here because the amount of traffic you get is so choppy, right? It's a lot on the weekends. It's not so much in the week because we're in population. Is it? I mean, given how much it's going to cost to build this thing, is it going to be even possible to make the rent in these places workable for the businesses that are trying to bring in?
I mean, I'll let Jim give the real answer to that, but there's two questions. One is, you want to bring in as much as you can, and you also want to serve what's there. Having put you in a good position.
We will charge fair market value for the floor space. Whatever that is in this area, that will be equitable to that. The price of the building will be substantial, but we expect this building to be here for 7 decades to last it out. The current building was built in 1860. It's still going strong. So we're expecting the same thing in terms of this one. They'll have several more tenants. So the rent will be a lot. So it's been twice the rent payments that we are now. And to add on to the revenue portions of what the district brings into the enterprise fund to fund other things. So where we're going to get the $7 million to build it, we're still working on that. And we do have an ad hoc committee right now with the Harbor Board and trying to identify that. But this is definitely 5 to 7 years down the road. So we have a couple years to figure that out. But what we don't want is to have decide we got the money and start planning and delay the project another time. But we want to be ready to go. And also we get grant money for some of this, which is possible. We want to be able to so
we did bring in a market analyst to look at the area. We had to work with them for a parking traffic, vehicle miles travel stuff as well, but they did return analysis, and based on that, this project works. No private developer will touch it because it works in the timeline of government and not so much on something that wants somebody back in 5 years.
Ballpark, how much is it going to cost to build this thing?
12.5, 14.5
plus us.
12.5.
So 25. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. Questions from other folks on the council? Let's go.
Okay, so interesting, Gus. Jim, we spoke several years ago about my concerns about the financial fiscal sustainability of the Harbor District. And so in general, I'm in favor of doing what we can to shore that up. But it leads to a couple of questions. I assume there's expected to be an increase in activity at this location because you're doubling the amount of space. And then secondly, that open plaza, is that planned for events, little concerts or something?
It can be, yes.
Okay, so.
And we welcome that.
So that implies more visitors, but the parking study and the traffic study are not credible because they say there's not going to be any more traffic, which is nuts. And it only studied the 2 intersections inside the harbor. It didn't study Highway 1. So, I mean, I think the harbor, the traffic studies need to be revisited. Well, excuse me while I mute a couple of people. The traffic study is going to need to be revisited. Okay. And I would like to see that probably the market analysis and do what I can to help you guys get the funding. All right. As far as the parking decreasing by 3 spaces, again, because you expect more traffic, I don't think people are going to be able to bike here too conveniently. But I noted that we have this lot for the boat launch ramp. And on your map, it's all these red spaces, right? The red extra long spaces for the trailers. Why can't we convert a bunch of that? I've never seen that many boats fill up that trailer space. So my suggestion would be, let's convert some of that. I don't know if it's not legal, but some of that boat trailer stuff into the rest of the parking you're going to need to support.
Should have the combination lot, but you have to have marked spaces for 118 boats.
And you can't get less. Who says you can't have less?
Division of Boating.
Thanks.
But again, if we bought Marina Strip, it's now we own some of that right across the street, which is real close to the light across the street there. But there's other options for the district.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go Dan and then Kimberly.
Thank you for your presentation. So this, I've been on the MCC now, I think 13 years, and this seems to be the 3rd or 4th 2-story building that's been proposed in this area. And I remember all of the comments previously. A lot of them have to do with essentially blocking views for so many other people. Yeah, it's clear if you can afford the plate on the second deck, everything, it may be nice, but not taking into consideration everybody else that have their views blocked, whether it's from intense lighting at night, as you said, light scatters with the moisture. So I have strong concerns about the view blockage. I'm sure that this will change again, but also another concern is right now, historically, what you have is you have a people that come to the pier, buy fish off the pier, kind of pass through. And so it's more of all ground level activity. So what this is would propose, I also have concerns, is you're essentially separating. You either have to be on this level or down below. And so honestly, I just don't see it working well in the long run for that splitting. It's better to keep, all the activities on the same level, in my opinion. And, I want to respect that a lot of work has been done into this, so please don't take anything personal. I have to give my concerns. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Kimberly next.
Hi, very interesting presentation. Thank you. I have a few things, a few comments and questions. The thing that Greg said about the parking in that upper lot, that Greg, you may not know this, but that actually does fill up on occasion with people who do recreational water sports and also during crab season. So that lot is fully used at various times of year. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback on this end. The other thing that I'm curious about here is more retail, because consistently the public has expressed that they want this to be a working harbor, that they don't want it to be retail oriented, and they don't want an expansion of retail, that they would prefer an expansion of, more in industrial use and recreational use. And so I'm a little surprised by this. Would some of this space be used for recreational businesses other than the ones that currently exist?
we've been using the word retail as a placeholder for tenants, but hopefully the sports fishing folks would stay there. Mavericks would hopefully come back. Tenants that are very much water oriented and oriented to the uses of the pier and the waterfront.
I'm thinking beyond that. Mavericks folks have been around for a long time. I'm thinking about kayak shops like California Canoe and Kayak, other types of water sports. There are a lot of people who are recreational users of this harbor, and I think that's really important to keep in mind.
The other, what is it? That's just one question.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you on your end.
Was that all of your comments and questions?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay, all right, keep going.
I didn't know if there was a response. I can't hear
You
at the
didn't ask.
microphone.
Can you push the microphone? There you go. Like direct it. There you go.
Oh, our goal is to have harbor related or recreational related, waterfront related businesses in the building.
And can you tell me why you're pushing expansion of other types of retail, given that the general public has consistently not wanted that?
We're a revenue producing harbor, and we need to increase our revenues to be able to maintain our services.
Okay. Another concern I have is that the harbor district has consistently paved a lot, and there are a lot of impermeable surfaces, more than we used to have, and that seems to be increasing. So I have grave concerns about the impermeable surfaces that are going in and the runoff into the harbor, which impacts the recreational users.
This project will lower the amount of impervious surface because new developments are required to have stormwater runoff treatment. And we have the opportunity to make the paving in the new plaza permeable. So we're erasing the entire upper parking area, which will be now be mostly roof, and the balance will be landscaping. So this will be a net increase in captured or in treated runoff.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And I guess my other worry is that if this spurs the creation of more parking lots, would the parking lots be permeable surfaced lots?
That would be my assumption, yes.
Well, which is it? Because you promised permeable surfaces previously, and those surfaces ended up being paved.
Any new parking would either have to be permeable itself or have runoff treatment areas adjacent to it to treat any runoff that comes off the paved area.
Okay. I just haven't felt like we've been very successful with those catchment basins. So, permeable surfaces would be more desirable, especially given the pollution, the level of pollution that washes off from the highway, and also given the flood risk. The other thing I would like to look at here is I guess your answer about Dan's and others' comments about Dark Sky International lighting. It seems that you actually aren't very knowledgeable about that, and I wondered if you would be willing to talk with somebody at Dark Sky International to learn more about this before you embark on this project. It would be a great learning opportunity and maybe a partnership opportunity with them.
We're open to all sorts of input.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Sorry, yes, we'd be certainly happy to. Although this isn't the first project where we had to try and not throw so much light in the sky. In fact, we've done several LEED Platinum projects where avoiding that is critical.
Okay, that's great. So, and I think you addressed my questions about sea level rise. It seems like you've taken that into account. I would just still like to encourage you to keep in mind that this harbor is a working harbor oriented towards recreational users. And I encourage the harbor district to keep that in mind too, because the public has spoken out consistently and loudly that that is what they want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Is there a public bathroom in that building?
There is.
Okay.
Yes.
You have another thing? No? Okay. Then let's go to questions from public. I see. Yeah, I guess. Sid, you're up first, and then Natalie next.
Thank you. Looks like a decent plan. I'm a little confused. How much parking is there? You're reducing all the parking by 3 spaces? Is that what I heard them say?
Yes.
So how many parking spaces are there going to be now?
Oh, I don't have that off the top of my head. Sorry.
465?
165?
Is it 400?
No, it's in the hundreds, not the
It's
100s.
it's 3 less.
3 less, but how many altogether?
I will dig up the report right now if you start going through next,
Okay.
and then I'll have that.
I just went to have dinner tonight down at Catch HMB, and as I drove through the harbor, there was an RV that was blocking right in front of Barbara's Fish Trap, and we had to go around. It was interesting because, you know, there's going to be more RVs as we, you know, get into this nice summer season. I'm hoping that you won't have a lot of retail down there. I've been, when they first started, the county had the Plan Princeton thing about rezoning, and that, you know, we all said no mini Monterey. We didn't want little shops with, you know, turning it into Fisherman's Wharf with cheap imported magnets and, you know, postcards and sweatshirts and the usual gym cracks that they sell in those kind of places. So hopefully you won't have too many shops like that. I can see having some, you know, artisanal things, but not, you know, cheap imports and seashells and crap. But I don't know. It sounds like you want to make money, but it seems like you're not listening to what the public wanted from way back when we all said, don't, you know, keep it funky. And then I like the idea that you're trying to make it look authentic and not fancy. And, you know, what about the light pollution? Are you going to try to stick with downlighting? I mean, you said something, but you mumbled it, or the audio wasn't good over Zoom about those pathway lights. You
Can
said
call
something.
so we can answer some of your questions, or we're going to forget the first ones.
Okay, so what?
The
Go
staff
ahead.
here, staff planner is here, Camille Young, and she reminds me we have approximately 650 parking spaces in the existing lot. And we haven't our traffic consultant, who isn't here today, and parking consultant hasn't finalized their calculations. The district's in a weird spot where they probably have, if you consider 1 parking space per 2 slips, they probably have 150 more parking spaces than the county zoning requires. They obviously don't have enough parking to make everybody happy, because everyone who goes surfing or everyone who goes shopping in Princeton parks on this lot. So it's a big question. The other thing is regarding the tenants. You know, every time we've come here, the coolest thing is the Princeton seafood, which is not called Princeton seafood, pelagic seafood, but that kind of local harbor-oriented, authentic business is what everyone wants to see here. Nobody wants to see, well, actually, maybe a guy doing small glass blowing figurines with a torch in a window might be interesting, but nobody wants to see this place overrun with tchotchkes.
Right.
And your third question, the downlight is important. We don't want to shoot lights up. In fact, we can't. Probably there's a Title 24 rule that prohibits it. But given that, because it is on this very sensitive marine spot, even downlights are going to make the clouds glow a little bit. So we're going to have to work carefully with the cutoff fixtures and low-level lighting wherever we can. But we're also going to want a neon sign here and there, some kind of sign that gives identity to the tenants.
Well, okay, when you brought up neon signs, when they first opened up Harbor Village, they put it looked like LA. They had a big wrap around, it was called Crab Landing. And it looked like, in the fog, it looked like a spaceship had landed at the harbor. And that's not lit up with the neon wrap anymore. But so I'm not really happy about hearing anything about neon lighting at the harbor. But, a little bit of light, that's fine. Because we get concerned about light pollution in our little harbor.
Very sympathetic to that. We'll absolutely work with groups who have more technical knowledge than we do on how to control that.
Yeah, I mean, Nothing's tackier than seeing neon everywhere, I think. Just a little bit is fine, but not a whole lot. Anyway, so I guess that was my main thing is it looked like, I mean, whenever I go to the harbor, I can usually find a parking spot. But, you know, I thought it looked like you were only going to have a few down by the restaurants now. But I could be wrong. And maybe you just.
I want to give other people a chance to talk.
Okay, fine.
Thanks. Thank you, Sid.
Sure.
All right, Natalie and then Jane.
Hi, thank you for hearing me. So I would like to express my appreciation for the flexibility shown in considering an alternative site for the project. Now that the initial site has been so completely and beautifully renovated, the original justification for tearing down the existing building is no longer valid, and further than that would be a waste of money and resources. The renovation that Ketch and Pelagic Harbour Group have made has preserved the site's character and utility, making it unnecessary to proceed with the original demolition plan. I believe exploring other locations for the project would be in the best interest of the community and would allow us to maintain the integrity and benefits of the recently renovated site. However, I am concerned because these plans look pretty high fidelity. How likely is it that you will choose another site?
But when I opened up the conversation, the building was designed and the site was selected out of multiple different options at the harbor to be at this location, mainly because of the permitting agencies restricted us to this specific location. With that said, that was before the Harbor District acquired new land in and around the harbor. So the option of moving the building is available to the Harbor Commission if they so decide to do that.
Okay. Great. So I think we have Jane next and then David.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation. First, I just wanted to start out by congratulating the harbor for getting the award for its beauty. You got a recent award. I think you came up very high on that. Given that, you know, I feel like quaint old California. I'm a native California. The old coastal beach town, which traditionally had its purpose of letting people relax, coming from all over the world and taking that big sigh and say, I'm relaxing now. We're losing that. We're becoming urban coastal. And so the question then becomes what preserves that old feeling? I think the more steel and concrete we have, the less we have it. I like the idea of a place for festivals, but it would be better, I think, if it were brick or some more historical look. I very much like the corrugated metal because it ties into the old boat warehouse that is down there. So I would encourage, you know, saw a little bit, trees and plants, curves to the buildings, materials that work with the harbor warehouse look. There's an art community down there that I have not yet seen integrated into these plans. They're kind of hidden because they work out of those warehouses, but there's some very, very high talent that could do murals or other things and also then display their work in shops, I think. The other thing I wanted to mention is I use the parking lot. A lot of people use those lots to come in, walk their dogs and go. So I think there's more traffic in those lots than it would be counted in one fell swoop. I would like very much to see the harbor also be an educational center. You know, we had a drowning a couple of years ago because the kids there was a family that didn't know about the riptides and stuff. And I think there's some educational opportunities both for the natural wildlife, the preservation of the ecology, and safety in the water. So the only other comment I wanted to end on, I'm very concerned about the views as well as what's been said. I support a lot what's been said, but I also just want to call out the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is Capistrano and Highway 1. And if we have an emergency with all those RVs and everything coming out, that will be the choke point for the whole of Highway 1. And I don't see anyone who's building things taking that seriously. And the residents here take it very seriously because we have to figure out how to get out if there's an emergency. So I would really highly recommend that some studies be done. How can we make that corner more safe and more accessible in an emergency? But other than that, I just want to say thank you. I liked a lot of the things I saw in your plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane. David, you're up.
You guys can hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So I'm David Westendorf, and I'm co-founder of Jetty Wave Distillery and now CEO of Pelagic Hospitality Group in the harbor. I stand at paddleboard in the harbor. I surf Mavericks and I wing foil there almost every single day. So my entire life is centered in the harbor. Last year, we took over the Catch Joanne business. And since then, we've contributed over $100,000 in rental income to the county. And we employ over 70 coastsiders, and we expect to compensate better than any restaurant on the coast. We've invested over $1 million in infrastructure, comprised of 19 of the coastside's finest citizens, many of whom you know, into the infrastructure of 17 Johnson Pier. We took away mold, we took away boogers, we took away chewing gum under the harbor bar. We increased the ADA access. We took out pounds and pounds of grease, replaced plumbing, and we've built in refrigeration that needed to be replaced. The building has its warts, but it's now our home. We really want to stay in 17 Johnson Pier. We invite all of you who are in attendance at this meeting to stop by, see the wonderful meals that we have, experience the wonderful service that we offer, and watch us grow in our role within the community and the values that we hold dear. We support the principle of a new harbor retail building, but we cannot accept the business disruption risk given the coastside's history of overextended new development timelines. Think about the dredge, and then think about how long it might take to complete a building demolition, create temporary structure for current tenants, build up from the ground a $13 million structure, wherein previous line item budgets have already exceeded their line item limits. So we're recommending that the harbor create a second building in the parking lot above where the crab traps are. And moreover, we believe that it's in the county's best interest not to demolish and then redevelop, because we believe the potential savings from creating a second building is far more simple, far less expensive. There would be no temporary building structure. There would be no demolition or mess. There would be no reduced rent from current revenue from current tenants. In the long term, we would see more net retail space, given new options for visitors and rental income for the county. So those end my comments, and we appreciate your kind ears.
Thank you. All right. Any comments? Question on the PS214? Yeah.
Go to the microphone.
So folks can hear you. And just give us your name so we can put in.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Clark. I am the managing partner of Maverick Shirt Company. We've been in this location since 2010. We renovated an old restaurant, right, an old fish house, and turned it into our home for the surf shop. We love this location. The building is virtually indestructible. It does need a lot of work in places, but the work that the Pelagic Food Group has done has been exceptional. We're really happy with the building itself. We'd love more space, but we'll do what we can. Our concern is not just for the building itself being renovated, torn down. I love the plans and the concept of creating more of a community environment with outdoor opportunities for the community and visitors to come in and enjoy the space, sit for a while, not just go in and out. It's a wonderful idea. This concept came up 2 years ago prior to the Harbor District's purchase of the land above that, adjacent to the current harbor that extends to the north end of Sam's Chowder House, the former residence that's up there on the hill, the greenhouse. That is now part of the Harbor District's arsenal. So I would suggest that they take a different look, although I love the work that was done. I hate the concept because my business would never survive. We've been there since 2010. The idea is to tear down our existing building and expect us to survive for 7 years or 3 years in a temporary building and then move into larger space and be able to afford that after being shut down for that long. Assuming that people want to dine, and shop in a construction zone. So I think the concept is fantastic. The location is terrible. I agree with the other person's comments about Capistrano Road and that kind of choke point coming into the harbor. If you can explore, I hate to say this to the architects, the new location in that property, which is closer to the highway, could have a different access point and could remove some of that retail space in an area that's already busy with traffic, and then continue that park-like setting all the way down through the harbor to the existing buildings and create more spaces and more opportunities to come in. So that concludes my remarks.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Jim and his team? Yep.
How do you do, folks? I was listening to you guys.
Let us know your name if you.
My name is Matt Allen, 50-year El Granada resident. And this is right in my neighborhood, so I have a perspective, historic and current, but I had a question come up during your presentation about feedback you've gotten, mostly opposed to the tear down. So you're part of it too. So I think it would help the public give you better feedback if you gave us an idea of what it would look like in the alternate location, as well as the proposal of the tear down. And I do oppose the tear down idea as well. And based on the drawing, somebody mentioned it earlier, it does make me worry that it's reminiscent of Monterey and Pier 39. Let's see. Question. Sandra was just talking about being displaced during construction and at best having to do business in a construction zone. So returning tenants, would they get priority in the new building? And what kind of priority would you give to local tenants as opposed to just opening it to the general public?
The current tenants have the right of first refusal in the spaces. The rest of the spaces will be put out in the standard.
So open market, no priority given. And I thought I heard you say some of the upper units would be residential. Is it all commercial?
I mean, so the massing is just, yeah, the tenants would probably be two restaurants, right? Is the idea, but they don't have to do restaurants. Something else.
Would it be a possibility that it would be residential?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for answering the question.
Thanks. All right, I'll let Jim and his team go on. Really appreciate you coming in.
If you have any further comments, please email me directly or give me a call. Contact information is on the Harbor District website. And I'm open to all and any communication with us that we have. Again, we're in the further along in the design phase for this, based on what the harbor had 2 years ago. We don't have that anymore. We have something different. So we're taking all this information. We still have to meet with the board, present it to them to see if what direction the board tells me to go. Right now, my direction is for this. New information comes out, it might change. And we are extremely serious about reducing our light emissions from what it currently is. I like dark skies here. I live here too. I grew up here. I like to see the ocean. So we're very serious about that. We're very serious about the view too. And making sure the public still has a view of the harbor and the ocean. Just this last week, with all the whales jumping in and thousands of birds, we should be able to see them. So that's really good.
Awesome. Really appreciate the time and the communication.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Awesome. All right, well, that gets us
Alarm doesn't go off.
Yeah, right. Okay, that gets us to our next agenda.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't?
No, we have to decide what to do with our comments.
Oh, we have to decide what to do.
I think we have a couple of options. Do you want to put that up on the screen real quick? Greg, what we normally do with development referrals is there's a committee that sends in comments on behalf of the MCC. Greg and I wrote some comments, which we could just send. We could sit here and rewrite them and send a formal letter, but I don't want to do that with all these people here. I think that what we wrote up, everything that anybody said here tonight is included in what we wrote. If the council would be willing to just let us send the letter to our preliminary comments to Camille, as we usually do, that would be the simplest thing to do tonight, but I don't know if the people are wanting us to do that or not.
I'm fine.
Me too. Yes, sounds great.
Kimberly with chime in.
So sorry, I'm a little out of the loop here. What is what is the timeline that we're trying to meet?
We're trying to get this in before the pre-app workshop. Before they set up the workshop, they want to get preliminary comments from all the involved agencies. These are very preliminary comments. We are not wedded to them, but there are initial reactions, and they really do take into account everything that everybody here said tonight. I feel comfortable with just sending it, but if you have other thoughts, please say so.
I did read these, Claire, and I think they're great. And I'm sorry I wasn't available to work on them with you. So I'm okay with that if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay, great. So I'm fine with it.
So the council, we need to vote.
Okay, somebody want to move that we?
I move we send the comments to planning as stated in this.
You have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Kimberly, we call a roll?
Sure. Sorry, was that Scott seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my screen is messed up. Greg?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Dan Haggerty?
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, what are they voting on?
Anne? Oh, Anne's not here yet.
No.
Claire?
Yes.
Kimberly is a yes. Gus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It passes with one abstention.
Yep. Thank you. All right, that gets us to item number 2 on the regular agenda, which is GGNRA, who are here to lead us in a discussion about what's going on with Rancho.
I'm here. Sorry, but I'm not voting tonight.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries. But welcome. Okay, David, take it away.
Thank you very much for having us here. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. I don't know how you do it. It's 9 o'clock. I'm not ready for bed, but we're going to keep on going. This is awesome.
Oh, the fire alarm's got us all pumped up.
Yes. So the reason I'm here, I'm to share with you where we are right now in the planning process for the Rancho property that is managed by Golden Gate. As you know, our general management plan for the park was issued about 10 years ago. It directed us to go ahead and create a comprehensive site plan. We've slowly been doing that over the last decade, but we've really actually been kicking in a little bit more, maybe over the last 6 months or so into this process. And during the last 6 months, we've had a number of meetings. We met down in Montera back in March. We had a tea on the trail meeting. We met with the MCC back in March as well. In April, we met at Amber Ridge with community members as well as a whole bunch of boarders to talk about their concerns and ideas. Back in April, we met down at French Trailhead over in El Granada. We had over 100 people show up for that event. And then we had a Sunday tea May 19th in Montera with about 50. All told, about 300 people have come out and physically shared their concerns. Mostly different people. A couple of people I guess they like the free tea. I don't know. They came back again and again for these things. We got a lot of input. We also got a heck of a lot of letters, and we got a heck of a lot of emails. And I got a lot of personal phone calls with people sharing their concerns. So I'm here tonight just to tell you where we are and what we've heard over the last 6 months from the public. I divided them up into different groups, but you're going to be shocked to hear that equestrian issues were probably our number one issue, that folks had a lot of things to share about. And the number one thing we heard was that the continuation of horse boarding facilities is crucial to families that live along the coast. So that was heard loud and clear by park management. We also heard that there are no other nearby boarding facilities and that the removal or reduction would drastically reduce horse use on Rancho. We heard that the operators at Ember Ridge, Moss Beach, Ocean View Farms, and Red Tail Ranch have done significant outreach to underserved communities. The special projects they've been working with their partners to actually reach at-risk youth, to reach kids that have challenges, to reach veterans, go way beyond anything the National Park Service has done in San Mateo County. So it's a really significant portion of what the equestrian farms do. We heard that any reduction in the current number of animals boarded at the 4 facilities would make operations unviable as a business. There's a certain level of horses that have to be maintained at these different operations. If it goes below that level, it becomes impossible for them to stay in the black in their operations. Finally, we heard that horse operations are an important part of the business model for this local community, and that there were 50 different businesses that are directly impacted by equestrian boarding and activities that occur inside the park unit. So those were the major horse issues that we heard. We also heard some of the issues that had to do with public safety. There was a concern that any sort of trailhead to the south of Ocean View Farms would become overflow parking for the state beach, causing safety issues for pedestrians that are attempting to cross over Highway 1. We heard that locals are concerned about visitor access to the area adjacent to LeConte Elementary. Specifically, they were concerned for the safety of the children to have a lot of public that would be coming into that area. We heard that there needs to be more rangers on the trails to help deal with people that are breaking the rules. They don't see enough of a uniform presence out there. We heard that allowing for any sort of camping in Rancho would pose a significant threat of fire. The idea of having remote campsites was a big concern. We heard that there's a need for the Park Service to do more fuel removal on the 4,000 acres that we manage there. There's a lot of concern that if fire does start, it will keep on running through that area because there's a lot of exotic plants that are there. We heard that camping could lead to the development of homeless encampments on park property, and that the NPS has failed to enforce existing rules and regulations governing hostile dogs and the use of motorcycles on trails. Some folks were really concerned about infrastructure. So that's the next section. We heard that the park needs to put more money into trail maintenance inside the area. There's a really big concern that we just have not done enough to develop the trail system. We heard that there's a need for restrooms at some location. What that location would be, I'm not sure, but people want restrooms. They just are not exactly sure where they want those restrooms. And also, the park needs to install better signage and more benches in various areas along the trail system. The idea of a horse riding camp, which we got from our general management plan, was not feasible. And a lot of folks wanted to share their ideas about that. Boarding facilities, yes. A riding camp, no. And there was a need to reestablish native plants throughout the area. We heard from different user groups about what they wanted. We heard that they wanted, well, here one group that said, we want to maintain existing outdoor recreation opportunities. We like Rancho exactly the way it is right now. We heard that there were negative trail interactions between different user groups, and the NPS should consider creating horse trails and creating bicycle trails so that we can keep those two user groups separate. We heard that from groups that advocated both for maintaining off-leash dog areas and access, and for leashing dogs, and for removing dogs. So there's a whole gamut right there with feelings about the dogs. And although these are not specific recommendations, there were observations about the National Park Service that we heard. Some residents shared that the Park Service has failed to engage locals sufficiently who live in the coastside, but instead has taken a lot of input from groups from outside the area, and that the public wanted more public meetings to share their concerns. So that's what we've heard so far. So then the next step is to continue to get ideas from you all, which will inform Kirsten, who is going to be acting chief of planning pretty soon. Actually, we don't call you chief of planning. It would be environmental compliance and something like that. But she's basically our park planner. So she's working with our contractors and her team to take those ideas and merge them into a plan that we can then present to you all. And once you get that plan, then it's a series of public meetings where you can dissect that plan and tell us what was wrong with that plan and other things we can do with it. So that's kind of where we are right now in the planning process. I'm not going to go on at length because I think a lot of you want to share your ideas and concerns tonight. So I really do want to open up the floor. I do want to point out our chief of comms. This is Josh Winchell. He came on board about 6 months ago. So if you don't get a hold of me with your concerns, you're probably going to get a hold of Josh, or you're going to get a hold of Kirsten as well. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions, if it's all right.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with the council, and then we will go to the public. So, anybody on the council have anything for things that to do there?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
But
great.
we don't want them to go first. I would prefer to read with the public. Yeah, I mean, because I have a hunch they're gonna say some what I would say.
Okay, well, all right. That's a useful suggestion. Okay, so then for public, I'm gonna call out the first few, and then we'll turn it over to Dan to do the rest of in person. We'll do all the in person first, and then we'll do the Zoom. So first up, let's have Larry DeYoung come to the mic.
Hello, I'm Larry DeYoung. I'm the president of the Coastside Horse Council. This is not an update plans. This is an update on what you've heard. So it's not advertised correctly. And there's a lot of stuff that you have heard, but you didn't talk about. I'm a PhD in biology. I have the following questions for you. The authors of the San Vicente Creek Water Quality Report told GGNRA NPS that their report's data does not support the removal of horses. They spoke to you directly about that. Do you have any scientific data that contradicts that? Does the NPS have any data showing human pathogenic bacteria in the creek? You state horses are a reservoir for human pathogenic bacteria. In fact, ruminants, such as healthy deer, sheep, cows, and goats are the reservoirs for human pathogenic E. coli bacteria. Horses are not ruminants or reservoirs for these bacteria, even though you say they are. If you have any data to the contrary, where is it? If you haven't produced it yet and you haven't heard us on this at all, keep ignoring it. We are also concerned about a pattern of NPS behavior similar to their war on oyster farms in Drake's Bay. I want to quote Senator Dianne Feinstein, 2015 in Newsweek. The Park Service has falsified and misrepresented data, hidden science, and even promoted employees who knew about these falsehoods, all in an effort to advance a predetermined outcome against the oyster farm. You can just change that right here to horse farm. The GGNRA must adopt a transparent and cooperative decision-making process. You haven't done that here at all. Your current path will lead to unwanted news coverage and potential lawsuits. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any time I'd like to answer some of these questions?
Well, I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk. All right, next up we have Annie Ellicott. And then here on the Zoom.
Hi, this is Annie. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much to everyone for your hard work. And thanks to the MCC for hosting us. My name is Annie Ellicott. I'm a long-term equestrian actively using these multi-use trails in Rancho. They're beautiful. The historic stables in Rancho have existed for over a century, and they support a really thriving horse-centric economy, which David has enumerated about. A thriving culture and lots of recreational activities for the San Mateo coastside communities, from grandkids to grandparents, from Pacifica to Pescadero and beyond. So the question I have is, why do you have to destroy this heritage, culture, and local economy to build National Park Service facilities? GGNRA maintains over 4,000 acres in Rancho. These ranches actually only occupy about 150 acres. So it seems odd to me that GGNRA can't find another spot in or outside Rancho for a visitor center and their other facilities. I'm also familiar with the history of what the National Park Service did to the stables in Marin, Ocean Riders, Miwok, Presidio Riding Club. So I'm a little concerned about this NPS plan for the coast side. So not clear what the National Park Service's position is around horse operations. So I guess my question is Superintendent Smith, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Sorry. And his team is this. Where is the market research that you did with potential users showing kind of untapped market demand for a visitor center, a gift shop, parking lots, campsites, et cetera? Where did this whole idea even come from?
Yeah, so if you look at our general management plan that was published back in 2014, there's about 1 page a minute inside that plan that deals with Rancho. And it has some general ideas. It says you may want to consider an environmental education center. You may want to develop your trails more. It says specifically, though, that equestrian use is part of the history of Rancho and is something that would be continued to be supported. So we have very little to go on. That general management plan came from community feedback back in 2014, way before I was here, but it was based on the input from, Kirsten, what would you say? I mean, dozens of folks, hundreds
There either.
hundreds of folks that put input 10 years ago. So now 10 years later, we're taking that general management plan, we're trying to figure out how we can apply it today. It's clear to me that horse use is essential for, the future of Rancho. There's no way that there are not going to be horses there. It's in the general management plan. It calls it out. The only way that I've understood from the communications I've had over the last 6 months with the public is if we have boarding facilities inside of Rancho. So they will continue to be there. And that's based on public input I've gotten from these dialogues and from these meetings.
Yeah, I guess the only other point I would make is, it's really the ranges are providing a lot of public serving, services. It's not just the boarding, right? And it really is reaching a very broad community. And so if you haven't done recent market research, 2014 is a long time ago, 10 years ago, right? We have a different, vibrant community, on the coast side. And I think it's great that you're repeating back, the market research sort of talking points that you've gleaned from like these recent conversations. But to me, it's really important to do like research now, like with the community, because it is more than just horse boarding. It's way more than that. And I just think it's really important for the National Park Service to look broadly at your options, because there are lots of different ways you can execute on your policy priorities, without actually disturbing an existing heritage and culture and economy on the coast side.
All right, I want to make sure that we get to everybody. Next up, we have Jim Sullivan, who I think is Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you. Nice to see staff here to sound out the MCC. I've worked with the MCC many times over the years, and as far as a Rancho, I ride my bicycle on the trails weekly. And part of I'm sorry, you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Yes. Oh, great. Okay, thanks. Sorry. The proposed plan states that certain trails must be rerouted to avoid multi-use conflicts with horses. And I've heard David just say that possible single-use trails, that may be in the cards, but being a visitor up there for many, many years, I've never seen a negative interaction with, bicycles, runners, hikers, or the horse folks. It seems like that's something I'd like to see the data on. It's really a model of, I consider it a model of what multi-use trail sharing can be. And when the GG and I took over from Post, we worked extensively with Steve Griswold was on, George Dejerian, a number of staff that have, they've moved on. But but we worked with them extensively to integrate design features on the trails that really accommodated safe use for all the folks. Rolling water dips, high visibility, trimming on turns, no surprises. We've staged multiple seminars for bicycles, hikers, bird watchers, and the equestrians at both stables, Ocean View and Ember Ridge, to get to know each other more than anything, but also to kind of get to know what the other person requires as far as safe, outings on the rancho. We worked with staff to find the military plane crash site up on the top of the Spine Trail. It had been lost for years. It's a 30 years ago, 1992, I believe, the military plane crash and 3 crew members perished. And we worked with staff on there. And my point I'm getting at is I really appreciate seeing a lot more transparency from the GGNRA as far as meetings go. I hear it time and again where I gave you guys my email address and I'm not getting any sort of communication as far as we're going to have a tea on trails or we're going to have a meeting at the Ember Ridge stables. The communication really needs to be worked on. So I guess to finish here, working with us residents and visitors to forge an ongoing partnership with Park Service staff. I'd really like to see a lot more outreach from staff to make sure that the intentions are well sussed out with the community, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, next we have David Emanuel. It's David.
Hello. Hi, I'm David Manuel. I'm a frequent user of the Montero trails. And I want to pick up on the public engagement and meetings you've had. I know you've had some meetings, you've met with 350 people. I know the Parks and Conservancy have met with groups prior to this area. And I know you're talking about future meetings. And there's a demand and a desire for this community because they feel they've been bypassed in this process. And they want to participate, they have great ideas. They've lived here for a long time, generations. And I think there's a specific request by multiple user groups, dog walkers, bikers, hikers, horseback riders, to actually have an in-person direct interaction in a town hall style meeting. And there's a great model for this because the GGRA has had many town hall style meetings for all sorts of policy issues, controversies, and they've been held at the Farallon Elementary View School. Doesn't have to be held there, it could be held other places, but I think the concept is everyone can be together, everyone can hear what everyone else talks about, you won't get duplicate questions. And it can just be more interactive. So I know that Congresswoman Eschew's office has asked you to hold the town hall style meeting. I believe that Supervisor Bowler has as well. So my question is, are you resistant to this? And are you willing to do a town hall style meeting before you do your formal outreach? I guess you said maybe in late fall, maybe 6 months from now. Would you be willing to do that with the community? Thank you.
Can I answer this? Yeah. So Dave, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not a planner by trade. And I know we want to have something that we can give to the public that the public can then look at and be able to comment upon. It's just an easier process for us, as opposed to trying to take 100 and 150 people together in a room and try to create a plan. It's a difficult process. But if this is what the community needs, we will have a town meeting to discuss that. And we can do it before we issue the plan. So that's it's doable. I just want to make sure I need to work with my planning team to figure out what is the best way to facilitate that, because it's relatively complex. You've got a whole bunch of different aspects of it. You've got a big horse comp, aspect of it. Do we divide that up into a one-day session just on horses? Do we divide another day up onto infrastructure kind of projects? So you're shaking your head no. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, what is the most reasonable way that's efficient for you all? You've got lives to live. That would be beneficial for the writing of this plan. So let me work with Kirsten and our team to see when we can do that before the plan comes out, whenever that would be. Sometimes ideally this fall seems like a reasonable thing that we can do together. Okay. But thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, great. So we have a whole bunch more folks here in person. Dan, if you want to start calling out the cards, but if you haven't done a card, because otherwise Dan doesn't know how to call them. So if you haven't done those little white cards, there's a bunch in the back there. Just write your name on it and hand it off to Dan, but go ahead.
Okay, Matt Allen.
It's me again. Well, I too mistakenly read the agenda and came here expecting to hear a proposal. So I'm glad you're still taking public comment. And something else slipped my mind. I'm going to keep it brief. There's a bunch of us who want to talk. I've been hiking and riding bikes in this area that we're discussing since 1976. And I support the equestrian community. Don't mess with the horses. Let them keep doing their thing. Do not create camping areas. It's practically on top of the neighborhood. And I had this conversation with you guys in person before, but I don't support camping facilities. I do support trail development or reclaiming some of the trails that are being encroached, because the trails are disappearing up there. So yes, trails, no camping, yes, horses. And I think trying to create restricted use trails is fixing a problem that doesn't exist. We're all out there. We can figure it out. We can share the trails. You don't have to make it off limits to certain users. And I'm going to let someone else speak after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we have PJ Monica.
He left.
Left?
He might be on Zoom.
So that's if he is, we'll call on him when it's in that thing.
If you are on Zoom, make sure you raise your hand on Zoom and we'll call on you later. And then we have Ashley Gray.
My name is Ashley Gray. I live in Montara. I've come to several of your meetings. I met with Brian when you all took over the park. We came up, a group of us came up to San Francisco in 2012. We had big concerns about the LeConte trailhead that was there. I'm very interested in, I hate to be calling out, but it's really hard to believe that there was a substantial group of people that were supporting camping ever up in Rancho. That just doesn't vibe true with anybody that I've spoken with. And then you have your 2014 plan, which has been published. Do you, and you said that you're going to be talking about presenting other plans. Is there also a 2023 plan that you have?
There's the draft comprehensive site plan that was work in progress.
Okay.
That is, you can go to our website, you can look it up there.
Yeah, so I know that I've got it, and I'm curious as to why that hasn't been disseminated a little bit more. In that, you have camping, you're talking about repurposing some of the horse facilities for event spaces, and you're talking about putting an access point at the fallow field. Now, I'm fully for public should have full access to it, but the rendering that you have on that document has your road coming right down the middle of it. And I'm just concerned about every view from the whole Rancho looks down across that fallow field. And I would really strongly encourage you all to be very thoughtful about the planning. If that is going to be the access point, to maybe not put it right in the center of the field, maybe to one of the sides. I'd like to see that not be paved. We heard Kimberly talk about that earlier in this meeting. So crushed rock, like you got in Bear Valley, is a great model that you could use for that. I would also consider you strongly to consider not having that 30 plus parking space so deep into the fallow field where it's going to be such a visual disturbance to the broad view of all of the people who are using that beautiful space. And I would just, for the record, for everybody who's listening in here, I would encourage you to go to the website, look at the 2023 plan, and see some of the plans that are out there. because it's really tough to believe that anybody in this community is going to be supporting several of those aspects that are in there. And I want to echo all of the people who have spoken before, and I know that are going to speak next. We would like an opportunity for the public to have a more broad conversation and input into it. Relying on data of 350 people or however many people from 10, 12 years ago just doesn't cut it when these plans are moving forward right now. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. The idea of a visitor center in that area it's going to wipe out the vibe and feel and the culture of this community. So no visitor center.
Next, we have Diana Brooker.
Hi. My name's Diana Brucker. I live in Montera, taught at Carolina View School, which is on the front, for nearly 30 years. You were my first PTA president and I started teaching.
Can you come a little closer to the mic?
Oh, sorry.
Folks on the Zoom can hear.
So I was relieved when the formerly Westinghouse property was, turned over and ended up in the protection of the Peninsula Open Space District. And they did a good job maintaining it to a point. And I knew when GGNRI took it over that it wasn't going to stay the same because the R is recreation. And I just really hoping that it's also a responsibility. And just thinking about, I did look at the 2023 plan and seeing the camping area in the valley there behind the horse paddock. And also a bigger camping area in the El Granada area, just concerns the heck out of me. Doesn't seem responsible with the poorly maintained or poorly kept up. There's so much tree fall there. It just doesn't seem fire safe to encourage camping, which is going to have open flames one way or another. It's so close to the neighborhoods, and that's my main concern, but also the access right above Fairlawn View School. I know I can speak for parents and teachers. I know it's concerning to people, and we've been talking about that for years. So thank you for listening.
And next, we have Cynthia Cheryl.
We thank the MCC for hosting this event today, this evening. And to thank the Park Service for coming today. We come in peace. We very much want to hear the community behind all of this. I do advocate for the equestrian community, but I'm here because I'm wearing this lovely ones, because the citizens of this community are sometimes the invisible networks. We have 1,500 people who are part of our roster, post-side cert up in this area. Many of them, we have more than 200 certs in this area, who have taken their time to become trained in emergency response. We have extensive radio training in our neighborhoods here who can help you in an emergency. The therapeutic riding programs and the boarding programs here they belong to people who form this critical communications network that can help you. I come from 30 years in planning. I was a partner with Gensler in strategic planning. There are many ways to incorporate public comment in a planning session that really can inform the final design without being divisive or without being in fact, enriching your planning process. I know that what can happen from this community that cares so much that here we are, to let you know how much this matters to us. And we want to offer the full resources, not just CERT, but of fire services, large animal evacuation group, all of these agencies that we train with day in and day out, who are part of this community here, in support of the active equestrian boarding and therapeutic programs in this area. Thank you.
Next, we have
Before you-
Lisa Forward.
Before you go on, I just want to remind everyone that you need to speak into the microphone for those of us on Zoom to hear you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me through my mask?
Does it help to pick the microphone up and hold it?
Okay. There you go. Great. So first of all, thank you to the council and thank you to the Park Service for being willing to hear us and for the list of things that you read off. That was really helpful. My biggest concern is fire. It sounds like that's the same for a lot of people here. 10 years ago, it was a pretty bad idea. Now it's a very, very dangerous and irresponsible idea. And I think everyone knows that getting insurance in California is becoming more and more challenging. So setting up any kind of infrastructure at all really jeopardizes this community in a way that would be unintended on your behalf, right? But definitely a reality. It seems to me like the resources that you guys have are vast and can really make a big impact on things that really matter to the community. So for example, defensible space. A lot of our neighborhoods back up to Rancho and there's no defensible space being done here. Same thing with some of the flooding. Some of the neighborhoods really get a lot of runoff from the water. And so rather than misappropriating funds into things like visitor centers and parking lots, maybe we can redirect it into a stewardship of the land and therefore a care of the community that makes more of an impact, than a parking lot. And I agree with one of the people on Zoom. I live in Clipper Ridge. And so the top of Coral Reef is one of the access points. I don't see it being overflowing with parking. I don't see a ton of demand for people saying, oh my gosh, I need to park in the fallow field because I can't park at the top of Coral Reef or LeConte or whatever. So I agree. I don't know where the demand is. I understand the Park Service's job is to improve the land, but please do it with consciousness about the fact that you're backing up almost like a massive percent of the coastside homes back up to this area. And so there's just different considerations that might be at play here and then in some other areas where the Park Service manages. I was very happy to see that stewardship was definitely a part of the plan. I'm very happy to see that the pampas grass is going away. I'm not sure how you're doing it. I hope you're doing it safely and well and sustainably good for the environment. But that is a massive fire hazard as well. So please help take those resources and put them in a way that really is meaningful to the community. And in so doing, I think you're going to get a lot of community support. As a result, people really want to support Rancho and support you in supporting Rancho. And so I really just want to thank you guys for your willingness to hear us. And please, yes, please do a town hall before a plan, because you totally hear what you're saying about like, how do you make a plan if you have 15,000 people telling you about the plan? Yet at the same time, the message it sends is we have a plan and you guys are just gonna have to get used to it. Right. And so like, it's really helpful. Your willingness to be here speaks volumes. And so I feel like that outreach to the community would also do the same. So thank you for hearing me. And again, thanks for being here.
And next we have Allison Carlisle.
Hello, you may remember me. I've been at a couple of your meetings. I'm Allison Carlisle. I have just grab that. All right. I have a couple of points that I'd like to bring up. One, I wanted to say thank you for the removal of the Cape Ivy. I know there was a crew that went out there and did a lot of work. I asked them what it was and they said Cape Ivy. So that's how I know. Also, thank you. I noticed that there's going to be some road construction. I hope that that hole that the person fell in and got hurt at is going to be filled. I assume that's what it is. So thank you also for listening to that concern. And I also saw that very quickly after that person got hurt, you also went in and cleared off the sides of the trails. That was all excellent. And I really appreciate that you listened to us on that.
Thank you for calling and providing some
I want to bring up maybe a slightly silly topic, but there's been a lot of discussion around toilets and no mention of the toilets that there are. There is one about 100 yards north of the what I assume is a ranger station. There's toilets at the Montera State Beach. And I don't know if there's ones at Gray Whale Cove, but that would be an excellent place for them if they're not. But there's been a lot of talk about toilets and wanting to put toilets at Ocean View. But there's maybe some other locations we might consider. And there are some toilets available. Sorry about the potty talk. I also want to say that I'm very grateful to hear that you understand how important keeping the equestrian community here is. I do not know where I would go. I have a horse. I don't own land. I have nowhere to put her. I would have to drive extremely far to leave this community. I would have to leave all my support network that helps me. We're such an interconnected community, and it's impossible to own a horse by yourself with no community. You really need the people around you to support you, and keeping our community alive is incredibly important. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
I got a card from Larry DeYoung, but.
Okay, Larry already.
Okay, you want to go to the.
All right, so we're gonna go to the Zoom. If there's anybody else who wanted to do one in person, you gotta give a card to Dave. While we do that, I will switch to Zoom. So I'm just gonna go in the order I see on my screen here. First up would be Jeff McKay, and then Probashka will be after Jeff.
I'm going to cede my time to Larry DeYoung.
This isn't really the Senate. We really cede the balance of our time to the gentleman from the, Senate.
You gave them, give people a lot more time, but I just stuck for 90 seconds. I'd like to get some answers.
All right, we'll circle back to you at the end. Okay.
Might not be aware.
We'll poke you. All right, so Prohashka, and then after that will be Elion.
Hi there. Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Holly Prohaska. I had just a couple of questions. One, when you develop the plan, and as you're going through this plan, do you have members on your team that have an understanding of horse businesses and horses in general? Are there Park Service employees that are qualified to assist in working on developing whatever plan you end up making?
My answer now.
Yeah, I see.
So our consultant team, we do have an equestrian design expert. We also have park staff. We manage 7 equestrian facilities across our park. So we have park staff who are familiar with those. We've learned a lot from some of the folks in this room and our current operators as well. But yes, to answer your question, we do have a consultant who's been on our team.
So you have a consulting party.
Operators than anyone else. They have been the Janes and Joes in the field that have actually given us the feedback that has been really helpful. Okay.
Advanced recording.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
If I could do.
You go ahead.
As well. Use the mic.
I'm not a horse expert. I'm something much worse. I'm a horse dad. I have 2 horses. I board them on the East Coast. I'm originally from the East Bay. By the way, I'm Joshua Winchell, Chief of Communications for the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. Sorry about that. I should have started with that. I started in January. I was born and raised in the East Bay. Been out in DC for close to 3 decades. So the question was about expertise. I'm not an expert. What I am is someone whose daughter was happy in a barn for most of her life. Where I saw that happiness, our home barn out on the East Coast, I saw provide amazing educational opportunities for kids. There was urban outreach. I saw the amazing healthful activities that barns, stable operations can provide kids. So again, I'm not a horse expert. I write checks, I guess is what I do. But what I do bring is an understanding of equestrian community in general, the value it brings kids in particular. And I understand price sensitivity as being someone who has 2 horses that I privately board. So what I try to do is stay engaged in conversations and listening to you all, first and foremost, is the most important thing. But when we go back to the headquarters, I am there having conversations. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I've got cards, you can send me emails. So I just want to make sure that you know, yes, we have horse experts, but we have a horse dad also as part of the leadership team at Golden Gate National Recreation. So I think I get a lot of what you're saying, but I'm really glad that you're here reminding us about what it's all about. So thank you.
And then I just had one other follow-up question, and that was, you've mentioned consultants and contractors working with the planning team several times tonight. So have you already contracted out the NEPA project for this project? Or is it going, it sounds like you have a greater team that maybe is greater than the Park Service that's working with you on this.
We do. Let's see. While we would love to be able to do all of this in-house, we don't have the staff for it. So we often bring on consultants. So we have been working with a consultant team that includes landscape architects and wetland experts and engineers and an equestrian designer. We are working with a consultant team that will help us through our compliance phase. I will say we're not ready with that document yet. We released our very draft kind of working set of ideas last year, and we've heard a lot this past year, a lot. And therefore, a lot of our ideas have changed. We don't want to bring them to you until they are revised. There's still a lot of work that we're doing on them. And yeah, we've pretty clearly committed that before we come out for public scoping, we would bring those back to share. But we are still working on those revisions. We are not planning to bring the draft that was released for public comment. We're making a lot of edits to those.
Okay, and I think specifically someone in the chat wrote it. They wanted to know specifically who your equestrian expert is.
I'm happy to follow up with you and share that information. My email, I have business cards too, but just anyone can email goga_planning, GOGA, like Golden Gate _planning at mps.gov. So I'm happy to get back to you.
All right, then we have Elion and then Jane.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening. And thank you to the council and the Park Service staff for being here tonight and meeting with the public. I'm a resident of the Princeton by the Sea neighborhood and use the trails behind our neighborhood every day with my dogs and my kids. And it's one of the reasons why we moved back to this neighborhood specifically, so we could be adjacent to the open space. I have a few comments and then we'll follow with some questions. My first comment is about the website. I work on federal planning for my profession, and actually found it kind of hard to find the draft management plan on the website. So would encourage you all to take a look at that and maybe link it in a few different places on the site. It was easy to find the timeline. It was easy to find the website. But again, it took me quite some time this evening to find a link to the actual plan. I just want to express some concerns based on the plan, on that draft plan. One, and I think you've heard it from many people already, that I'm very concerned about a proposal for camping. We mentioned wildfire is a big hazard. And then not only that, being adjacent to the neighborhood here in Princeton by the Sea, having a parking lot that's open 24 hours, and then having people coming and going camping all the time is a huge concern for me. I have children. There are many children that live in the neighborhood. We are already dealing with an in-house crisis in the area with people parking in RVs all over the harbor, all over El Granada in our neighborhood. And I don't want that problem to increase even more. My second concern is regarding proposed parking. I don't remember offhand, but it looked like a pretty large parking lot area that's proposed behind our neighborhood. I worked on the Chitoni Coast Dairy site, which is managed by the Bureau of Land Management now down in Santa Cruz County. And that's a larger site, and they're proposing an even smaller parking lot for a much bigger site. And I think there's a way to strike that balance. You know, I see people parking up at the top of Coral Reef who are using the trails all the time. So I understand that there's probably a need for a parking lot, but would encourage the Park Service to look at different sizes. And then my other comment is regarding town halls. As I mentioned, I worked on Chitoni Coast Dairies in Santa Cruz County, and there is a way to host town halls and incorporate public comment before you dive into the NEPA process, because that obviously, as you know, once you dive into the NEPA process, there's a timeline and there's a specific time frame for requesting public comment. In my opinion, I felt it was done quite well with the Bureau of Land Management, and I'm happy to share more offline on how that was done. But essentially, the agency brought in their consultants who were drafting the plan to the 2 town halls that they hosted. They gathered public comment, and then they drafted their plan based on what they heard from the public. And then lastly, since you are doing an EA, I encourage you to do, if at all possible, do a public comment period for longer than 30 days. Reading through a complicated document with maps, possibly doing research on what's proposed in the draft plan can take a long time. And it can be confusing if someone is not used to reading through federal documents. So I encourage the agency to as well extend a longer public comment than 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Liliana. Kirsten, did I hear correctly? It's GOGA_planning@nps.gov. Wasn't that correct? I just wanted to put that in the chat. Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay, then next up is Jane and then Christy.
Hi, thank you for coming out and speaking with the public. I just want to say my name is Jane Perry Silver. I sent you a quite lengthy document about a year ago on flooding on Deer Creek. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is wildfire and trees. One of the things about wildfires is you probably know this already, but about 95% of wildfires are started by people. And I was surprised by how some of the most innocent activities can start them. One of the big wildfires was started by someone just driving a stake into the ground with a hammer. That's the kind of thing that would be occurring in a camping area. So I'm against camping, and I do think that the neighborhood up above Coral Reef can sustain the traffic right now because they're dealing primarily with hikers rather than campers. So I'm against that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the trees. There are quite a few people in the neighborhood that are upset about the GGNR taking down so many trees. And trees have become, as you know, very controversial. I think the things that the neighborhood can agree on is we love the animals, we love living in the WUI, we don't want wildfires. But the other thing we can agree on, I believe, is that we all hope for climate stability. And the county has now started an initiative to figure out how trees can be removed, but also the tree canopy, which protects the weather, can be preserved. I would really love it if the GGNRA could be that force that figures out a solution to wildfire other than simply stripping out vegetation and fuel reduction. I think it would be very sad to tell future generations, our homes were expensive, we couldn't get insurance, we had to take out all the vegetation, and we unwittingly, and we turned a blind eye, and we accelerated global climate change because we did those things. I don't think it's impossible to do both of those things with the I don't have the knowledge, I don't have a biology background, but I would love it if the GGNRA became the award-winning standout group that said, we have figured out how to manage fuel reduction and also preserve the environment and allow people to live in a WUI and still feel safe. So I know that is a huge request, but it's a dream. And I think fear can sometimes block us from creative solutions. So I very hopefully and lovingly place that problem in your lap. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll have Chrissy Walker and then Rick Barker next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. So I'll be quick. My main reason for listening in today and making a comment was to just reiterate how important the horse ranches are in Rancho and their importance to the overall community. I have a daughter who her happy place is at Ocean View Farms with Square Peg. And that is absolutely the highlight of her week. And she is one of many children and many families that are affected that way by the wonderful programs that they have there. So I am relieved to hear that it sounds like some of the initial things that were suggested in the 23 plan are being reconsidered, particularly around horses. And so I just wanted to add my voice to keeping the horse programs the way they are as we move forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Christy. All right, we'll have Rick Barker and then Lucia.
Good evening, Park Service and council members. Thank you for your time tonight. I am Rick Barker. I work for a nonprofit here on the coast advocating for cycling and outdoor activities. Director, I sent you an email quite some time ago requesting data on how many visitors you had on the park per how many conflict calls you had to your LE about horse and bike conflicts, because we feel that this is not an issue and we're in agreement with the Coastside Horse Council and we align with their priorities. We think that we do not need specific separated trails. And we also would like to extend, once again, open invitation for us, the community and the mountain bike community to be part of the stewardship program on your trails. We've tried to work with you in volunteer and maintenance, but dealing with the federal government is sometimes lengthy and we don't get responses. So improved communication with your local trail stewardship nonprofit would be really great from our aspects. We have a disbelief that there is a conflict issue between the mountain bikers, the horsers, and the hikers. And we would appreciate better communication going forwards. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, would you mind sending your contact information to that GoGo Planning email so that I can get hold of you and actually link you with our volunteer group to work on maintenance down there?
Roger that.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Okay, we'll go Lucia and then Sid.
Hi, I'm Lucia Mokrist. I'm a resident of Redwood City, and my horse boards on the Woodside and Portola Valley side of things. However, I'm also a member of the Large Animal Emergency Evacuation Group for San Mateo County and do a lot of training with them over on the coast side. So I also am a former elite cyclist, captain of a regional women's bike racing team and national medalist. So I can speak to both the bike and the horse side. My horse also is in training for mounted search and rescue. So we spend a lot of time on the trails. So the sort of first quick point I wanted to make just in terms of the value of the coastside properties that hasn't been mentioned yet is we do cross-agency training. So with fire, any agency that wants to participate, whether that's police, sheriff, fire, paramedics, and understand working with large animals in an evacuation situation or an emergency situation. It's not even necessarily fire. It may be an overturned trailer or some kind of other road hazard. Over here on the populated, the densely populated side of the peninsula, we just don't have any areas where we can do that kind of training, where facilities can offer that much space that would be required to bring fire trucks in and other equipment in and the number of people that might be involved in such a training. So I just wanted to put in a plug for the value of these spaces for those purposes as well in terms of interagency resources. The second piece, again, referring to the size of the land involved, I saw a note on some discussion potentially previously about reducing the size of the corrals or the size that the areas the horses occupy. Again, as an equine veterinarian, former equine veterinarian, I'm well, currently licensed, but currently in consulting, which, by the way, my corporate motto is I love a good shit show. So I am here for you guys right now. But as a vet, I will tell you that different horses and different animals have different needs. And I think the Portola Valley, Woodside, Los Altos corridor can cater very well to horses who do well in smaller spaces. There's certainly larger spaces over here, but a lot of it is like, your basic box stall, Webb Ranch, Portola Valley Training Center situation. Not all animals thrive in that environment, and some definitely require larger paddock space, and larger, even potentially field space in order to be healthy. So it's kind of an animal welfare issue to have both options available. So wanted to throw out that. The third thing, totally different topic, the mixed use comment, and this follows really well on the horse versus, bike comment that we just got. Again, I am a, former Cat 2 Paralympic, or didn't go to the Paralympics, but national tandem rider for a blind athlete on the track. I have spent a lot of time on the bike. I get what it is to want to train and to want to recreate in these areas. As also a horse rider, I will 100% tell you I have had numerous run-ins with cyclists, and it is not because they're jerks. It is because they don't know what it's like to be on a horse and how to operate around a horse. And you have that same issue if you're on a bike and you're on the road, and cars don't understand what it is like to be on a bike and how to protect cyclists while they're driving. So I think I sometimes kind of giggle because the same complaints I hear about horse versus bikes are the same complaints that drivers have with bikes and vice versa. So at the end of the day, I kind of wish in order to get your driver's license in California, you had to be able to drive a car, ride a bike, and ride a horse, because then you'd really know how to operate anything safely. But that's if I was ruling the world. And because I'm not, what I would really encourage this group to do, at the end of the day, I have to confess, in my current equine oriented life, I'd say like, yeah, ban the bikes, but no, I get it. I'm all for mixed use, and it has to come with a heavy, heavy dose of education. So really, really working, putting signage about right of way between pedestrian versus bike versus car. I think Wonderlic Park actually has some really good examples of right of way signage. Any kind of outreach we can do with our mountain biking community to educate them, even runners, what do you do when you come across a horse? What's the etiquette? We have the etiquette on the bike of what to do when we come up on other bikes, shouting out obstacles and on your left and warning people about our presence, but, or how to handle yourself around other cyclists, but we did a little bit more education there. So I'm for mixed use, but with a healthy dose of education. And final point, again, as a veterinarian, there's been some discussion about zoonotic disease and the transmission potentially of pathogens from animals to humans, or the impact of pathogens from animals on the environment. And I just want to echo the previous comments about being robust in data collection. We have lots of amazing academic institutions around here. We have Stanford, we have UC Davis, who would be a great resource on the animal zoonoses side. UC Santa Cruz has amazing environmental biology programs. And if GGR and NRA has a way to partner with any of those, I'm sure there's a million grad students who would be more than happy to run around and take samples and monitor and gather data, especially on a grant from national parks. So happy to just again, data is everything, and don't forget how rich we are on the peninsula with academic resources and other resources that might be able to help that. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you, Lucia. All right, Sid and then Kelly.
I think I forgot what I was going to say when. Okay, I remember. Sorry. I would just like to comment on the fact that I don't approve of the camping sites because usually campsites out in the wilderness, you know, there's not houses around and you hear people laughing and, you know, enjoying themselves at a campsite. But when there's houses around, you know, that noise can echo and carry. So I would be, you know, I'd like to see the plan be on the Midcoast Community Council's website and not some document buried on the government website. So hopefully they'll be able to put the Rancho documents more easily locatable. And I just think to put it in the middle of the big field in Montero, which is where I saw they originally wanted to put it. Now that I hear it's over in Moss Beach, I'm more concerned because that's where I live. So anyway, as to the horses, I hope they'll be able to keep all the stables that are already there and not eliminate any. That is my big concern. Thank you. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Sid. All right, Kelly and then Rob.
And I too would like to cede my time to Larry DeYoung.
Okay, noted. All right, Rob.
Hello. The draft GGNRA Rancho Site Management Plan, preliminary dated January 23, pages 41 to 44 are drawings showing the ocean view management scenarios 1 and 2. I've posted a link in the chat to a Google Drive folder with a markup of these pages, along with some other site plan related materials. These drawings indicate a new road, a parking lot, a trailhead, and restroom facilities extending east from Highway 1 across from Montero Beach all the way to the Farallon Trail near the old San Pedro Mountain Road. The area was previously referred to as the fallow field when a similar concept was proposed by the GGNRA in 2012. This development will destroy the scenic beauty and natural character of this amazing area. It'll wreck the view from the surrounding open space. Any new parking or other development, if at all in the space, should be located directly adjacent to the highway or elsewhere. If you break this space, it will likely never be repaired. And it was good to hear Kirsten say they're reworking the plans. That's all I got. And I did post a link to the NPS website with the plan along with this folder I referred to, which has some additional information.
Thank you. Okay, so Larry, ask your questions. I don't know if you're going to get answers to all of them.
Oh, do
we have some? Okay,
so Sonny,
let you go last.
Seduced and abandoned.
You can close it. You can close it down. All right.
Marianne, so here, do you want to go?
So you're withdrawing, Sonny?
I can go after Marianne.
Okay. And yeah, Marianne Rogers.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Marianne Rogers. I live up the street. I'm in El Granada. Thank you all for your time. I understand it's a later meeting, and I appreciate everyone sharing their thoughts so far. I come from a biology background. I do habitat restoration, environmental protection, and open space where we have multiple user groups. So the collaboration and controversy of different uses is very real, and I appreciate all the different perspectives here tonight. I also recognize that GGNRA has been doing a lot of efforts, as others have mentioned, for non-native plant restoration and removal, and reaching out with studies for creek pollution. I did attend the RCD meeting a couple weeks back, and
am excited by the fact that there are years of collaboration with the ranches working on mitigating certain impacts, and without getting too deep in the weeds on the data for that. Tonight, I mostly want to address my personal larger stakeholder in the horse community and my concern over losing some of the ranching and horse boarding and facilities on the coast. I grew up here on the coast. I was very lucky to find the horse community at a young age. Members of that group are here tonight. And as a kid, I was able to learn different responsibilities with ranching, taking care of livestock and animals, very unique, rare opportunities for many people of any age, and found a community in that, not just for horse boarding and for the animals, but like others have said, there's a very well-established and committed evacuation and emergency support team. And that was critical and integral during the CZU fires and other traumatic events on the coast side. That community cares a lot and devotes a lot back to the community, beyond horses, beyond livestock owners. I also want to address that my partner works in ranching and has a community of friends on the coast. So both culturally and socially, he's very integrated, and many folks I know would be at a loss of where to keep their horses financially. It's just not feasible, either distance you have to drive away, or it's more costly at other facilities than some of the resources here on the coast side. And people's livelihoods would be impacted. People who work in and live in ranching and support the keeping and boarding of the horses on the coast would lose their source of income and their community and backing. So I understand it's still open for discussion and collaboration as the plans are drafted more officially. I just appreciate you hearing my thoughts tonight, and really hope you reconsider before downsizing or downscaling the amount of horses that are allowed at these ranches and these beautiful properties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tommy?
I will be super quick because everyone wants to hear Larry. I'm just wanting to kind of bring up my perspective because I've lived here my whole life, and we are at first, or a big part of us is a ranching community. And I don't think anybody here really defines or feels relating to any type of Yosemite Park kind of place. And I totally respect you guys working for parks. Your job is to make our lives great, and we want to be participating in that as horse riders and as my ranch being on the border of that. I'm just confused why this plan is continuing to push forward and these drafts are being created when all I hear from local school teachers, parents, and ranchers that any idea of camping and park expansion near our homes and near our ranches has a genuine safety concern with fire and expansion of that. Especially when we're giving you other options to where to put your funding, such as, keeping just natural land restoration and making trails better. Like we keep providing an option for where you can put your funds, but I'm confused why you keep putting funds in places where everyone is saying like, no, is there another entity that is telling you like you need to make camping there when, even though we don't want it? Are you able to answer that question? Is that a weird question? Sorry if it's very general or if it's been asked, but I'm just confused.
It's from the general management plan in 2014. It was identified as one of the things that the board was, and other people that had contributed ideas said that we want a place to camp in this area. So in kind of coming up with this plan, that was one of the things that stuck out there. It's obvious that the folks that live in this area do not want any camping in this area. It's obvious that the folks in this area want to maintain the boarding facilities the way they are.
Okay.
And that will.
And you hear that?
I hear it loud and clear.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I just want to make sure you heard that because that's just what we don't.
Okay.
Good. Okay. I said my piece.
Do you have any other cards? Nope. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. So
I won't be long.
this is the last public comment tonight. So Larry, close it down for us.
I won't be long. It is. this is not my first rodeo. I've been the chair or the president of the Coastside Horse Council 5 times. And not once during any of those 5 times did any of our members ever say, we want separate trails. Not once. We don't want separate trails. We don't support separate trails. And as Jim Sullivan said, the Rancho is actually a model of how people get along multi-use. So that's one thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is the comment about zoonotic bacteria. Guys, this is not rocket science. The RCD has told you that the data does not support removing the horses. You stated on your websites that horses are a source of pathogenic bacteria. They are not. There's never been any cases of E. coli from the water or anywhere else traced to horses. Horses can get E. coli, but they get sick. The animals that harbor it in the large reservoirs are the ruminants that don't get sick. So they're constant reservoirs. So it seems like you want to hold on to this. And I'm asking you very simply, are you still staying with the idea that the horses can stay if only you can engineer out the bacteria problem, which you have not documented and which actually doesn't exist, as you have stated it exists?
Larry, we have to comply with the Clean Water Act. It's a federal law, and the RCD is the regulatory agency.
Okay. Can you answer but you haven't answered any of my questions. All right, go ahead.
The RCD is the regulatory. The RCD is the regulatory agency that informs us about how we are currently in violation of the Clean Water Act. So in order to comply with federal law, we have to find some way of making water quality such that the RCD, when they test our water, can say, hey, you guys are improving. You guys are where we want you to be. So right now we are somewhere in the neighborhood of like 33 to 50% of the time we are in exceedance of the levels of pollutants that they're concerned about. So I know I didn't answer your question directly because I don't know anything about zoologic bacteria.
Well, you need to bring somebody here that does. And first of all, the RCD is not a regulatory portion of the government, so you're wrong on that. Second of all, I ask you a very specific question. Are you ready to take off your websites your statement that horses are pathogenic bacteria? And, Dave, it would really be nice if you started answering questions, because this doesn't work.
Smart park biologist to see if he agrees to these.
I've spoken to Eric Rubel. I've asked him to put your park biologist in contact with me. I've asked you to put your biologist in contact with me. You don't even respond. So let's get real here. It's time to be transparent. It's time to engage, and it's time to have a discussion. It's not time for you to tell me that you are not a biologist. I am a biologist, but I guess you don't care. So we got to, if you don't want a long, drawn-out fight, we got to come together. We got to deal with the facts. We can't be hiding behind right now. You're hiding behind stuff. And I'd love to be able to sit down and talk with your biologist, but you won't let me.
I don't think I've ever prevented you from.
Yes, you have. Please.
This is not a purpose for a public meeting. I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one.
You never responded once to an email I sent you about that.
I've responded many times to emails. This is not the venue for that. Yeah.
All right. Wow, that was a lot of public. Okay. Most have been certainly inside on this council. All right, but we should take council comments and then
answer Larry's question.
It's gotten as far as it's going to go tonight. So I want to turn to council comments or questions for David and his team.
Ask the council to ask Larry's question.
Greg, do you want to?
Well,
kick us off?
So first, we do appreciate you coming back, and we know this is difficult. There are only 12,500 people in our area. 150 of them were here tonight, and a large segment of the population is retired. So you can understand the intensity of the concern. I don't know how many people you get coming when you hold a session in a city of 100,000, but I'll bet you we match that with a lot fewer people. As far as the camping wildfire risk, just as a different slant, but with the same conclusion, you know, I put you in touch with Montero Water and Sanitary District. Our water does not come from Hetch Hetchy. It comes from that mountain primarily. There are subsidiary wells which require more treatment and cost us money. It's the Alta Vista well in that watershed. Any camping or wildfire creates a risk both of polluting with bacteria as well as the fact that there's eucalyptus stands, not necessarily on your land, but immediately adjacent to your land. And those eucalyptus are known to be very flammable, and they're pointed like a spear into the heart of Moss Beach. It's a major wildfire risk for the section of your area, which is adjacent to Montero Mountain. So I think MWSD might have things to say about the legality of actions you want to take in the area of their water rights. I would also caution you, I don't know if we can sue the federal government these days, but if a fire should occur after you allow camping, I see a huge liability issue for you. Okay, so just mention that. As far as parking, I'm kind of mixed on that. Certainly the surfaces have to be impermeable. The culvert at Highway 1 and Ontario State Beach is already inadequate. It can't handle the level of water that's now coming with climate change. Actions are being taken. So if it is parking, I don't know if crushed rock works or not. What I do know is that the standard green infrastructure that is mandated by CCAG and the county only captures, mitigates 3% of the rainfall in a 100-year storm. In other words, it's worthless for inundation. That standard will not do for any parking or impermeable surfaces. We get 100-year storms every couple of years here, and that's documented by the water district. So we have already a problem with that inundation. I don't know what community feedback heard 10 years ago. I understand you're acting on something you thought you heard. What I think I know is the MCC didn't hear about this. Dan, did we hear about this 10 years ago? Certainly MWSD, the water district, never did.
That was the fallow field.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. As far as the water quality issue, by happy coincidence, the chair of the Regional Water Quality Control Board is a resident of Miramar. And I can get her involved. And to Larry's point, you know, there's a national pollution discharge thing that is maintained by CCAG, and hopefully we can get people involved. RCD is not a regulatory body. They are a very useful, proactive group that does a lot of good things here when they get grants. They do a first flush analysis, but I think we can get to the bottom of the bacteria issue with an independent sort of little group put together.
Yeah, that's the dirty method.
Okay, well, all right. I do want to just comment, Josh, I got some frictional feedback on an email you sent out announcing a public meeting for GGNRA at this MCC venue. We are not your public meeting. I'm glad to see you have already agreed you will hold a public meeting in a larger venue. You'll have to, you know, handle 3 hours of extra feedback, but I guarantee you it's coming. On the trail upgrades, there are fractured jurisdictions throughout this area that you are now working. On a mountain, for instance, there was a near fatality on a bike accident. I'm betting that trail might not even fall in your land. I'm not sure. But I think there is a room for trail upgrades and safety for the mountain bikers. But again, it's going to take some discussion about how far you go and where you stop and what we might have to get other people like SFPUC, you know, and the county to do. We got a couple of questions here, but I think we got answers. One was, perhaps I'm ignorant, but what's the drive of the GGRA to develop this in the first place? I think you said you were operating on a 10-year-old 2014 master plan. So please, can we move on past that? And then we also got the question of what are the qualifications of the horse expert? And has everyone taken a look at what these other facilities that person oversees currently look like? My sense is the MCC has to put this in writing. We can't just let the air molecules stop vibrating. We've had another productive meeting. It seemed responsive, but we ought to register in writing what we in the community are hearing, and I'm happy to help draft that. You know, in advance of your next plan, I understand, but I want us to be on record that these concerns have been registered by a significant portion of the community. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, great. Let me call on Ann, because she hasn't had a chance to talk to me yet. Ann?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I want to echo much of what Greg just said. I'm very concerned about the watershed and absolutely oppose any camping whatsoever in this area. The fire danger is just too severe. And I know you're hearing that over and over again, but I don't think enough people understand that the folks here on the coast, if there is a major wildfire, we can't get out. And we've already been told that one of the evacuation routes is to run to the ocean. Now, that sounds insane to me, considering that you then have sneaker waves to contend with. So I really think that you need to rethink that. There is more than adequate camping available on the coast already, and I don't think it's necessary to add any more. And also, as far as the horse community goes, I raised my daughter with our horse on the coast, and it's invaluable to these kids, and so I just want to support them as well. And that's pretty much the end of my comments.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.
Claire, you have anything?
Very briefly, I appreciate all the learning that I'm getting here. I don't know the horse community, the ranch community, and now I feel like I do a little bit more. I certainly know how big and how enthusiastic you are, and I know where to find you now. I was also at the Marine Mammal Center last week. That's GGNRA as well, right? And I had a new appreciation for the depth and scope of the work that you guys do. So I'm learning about both sides that I don't really feel like you're that far apart. I hope you're not.
Awesome. Scott,
So I was always under the impression that boarding horses is extremely expensive. And I'd wonder, is this revenue generating for GGNRA in any way?
So I don't have the numbers with us right now, but you have the numbers. Oh. You have the numbers. I think we have to defer to you.
And is it market rate? Are you paying a market rate to board a horse up there?
So whenever we have a leasing operation instead of a park, we have to base it on whatever the local market rate is.
Okay.
And so our business management group will look at similar boarding facilities, and they've got to have like 3 or 4 of them. And they, based on that number, they come up with a number.
Okay. That's all I wondered.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for your presentation. Thanks for the community coming out and asking a lot of hard questions. You know, it's difficult. There's the plan that's on the website or available that I've seen. And then there's the answers that, well, we're not married to anything yet. So I thank you for getting the feedback from the community, letting us know that you hear the feedback from the community. But it's really difficult to know. I mean, you say you hear this, but which direction, you're not, I don't feel you're fully acknowledging the fire concern. Maybe it's too soon for you to, show your cards, I guess. But there are some real concerns. And I'm sensing that there's going to be an updated master plan coming to us soon that you don't have ready. I'll be interested, and I don't know where your the overall timeline, because it feels like we're getting kind of rushed into something, and that all of a sudden, decisions are going to come down, and that concerns me. So I will be looking forward to this next public forum, and hopefully it, will not be rushed, and answers will be given to the community.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly. We hear the fire concern clearly. We've heard it from several members of the community, and we've heard it a lot tonight. So we hear that. We are not in a hurry or under a certain timeline for this plan. So once it's ready, once we feel like we have heard from the community, once we have worked with the water board, with RCD, our other stakeholders, once we have a plan that we feel that we're happy with, that we feel the community will be happy with, that's when we would bring it out for public comment. So we're not rushing, but we want to get it right. That's why we've had many meetings. So hopefully that helps a little bit, that we're not under a certain timeline. We're not rushing to meet a January 1 deadline. As we get more comments and feedback, we are still updating our plans.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. So just to kind of wrap up, I have to say, like, democracy is hard, like this kind of, if this were China, one person somewhere would make a decision and everybody else would just go along with it or get shot. That's kind of how it works over there. Yeah. And it is a lot simpler. But it doesn't lead to as much, this is what makes America both great and really messy. I appreciate everybody coming out and kind of sticking. It's 10:15. I appreciate everybody kind of sticking through this, listening to the discussion, hearing the perspectives. This is how we move forward as a community. It's going to take a lot more work, and we live in a time when there isn't the same level of trust in government that once existed. And trust is something you build step by painful step. And we at the MCC want to be part of how we build that trust in the community and get this, whatever the ultimate decision is, that we get it to a place that everyone can live with. So again, appreciate everyone coming tonight. And
Kimberly Williams has her hand up.
And Kimberly is going to close us down.
Okay.
Go for it, Kimberly.
Oh, Gus, I really didn't want to be the closer.
Then you don't have to. We could be done.
Well, I don't want to repeat things that others have said, but what I do want to sorry.
Right, go for it, Kimberly.
Okay, so I don't want to repeat what others have said, but there are a couple of things that stood out for me. First, I appreciate that the GGNRA reported back to us and presented again at the MCC. I really appreciate that communication and the opportunity. So thank you for that. As I said at the last meeting, protection of the landscape and the wildlife to me is the top priority, and recreational human use is secondary. And I know that you're seeking a balance, and that's important too, but people always win and wildlife always loses in every single scenario in which we want something. And I just want to keep that in mind, that preserving open space and habitat for wildlife is important, and for native plants. And I see that as the primary use of this land. I'm also a biker, hiker, runner, and have been using those trails for many years. So I do understand from all those points of view. I always have good exchanges with people on horses, some bad experiences with people on bikes, but I think that's about bad actors and not bikes in general. So I'll just leave that there. The other thing that is troubling me is this conversation about creek water quality. And I'm troubled at the tone of the conversation tonight about that, because I also know several biologists who have worked on that, including some with Surfrider Foundation. And I want to encourage Mr. DeYoung and the GGNRA to come together with other stakeholders to look at this problem, and in the spirit of exploration, because science is about looking for answers and keeping an open mind. And I think we don't know all the answers about the water quality in that area. I don't think Mr. DeYoung has all the answers either. And I think it would be useful to sort of step back and think about a partnership with all the stakeholders to figure out that particular issue. I think that's an important issue to look at. And so those are my things. And thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kimberly. Let me actually just say one last thing, which is that, and I said this to Josh the other night on the phone, which is that there is no way you can over communicate this project. And you know, when I pack you on a trip, I always think I'm going to pack, and then once I think I've got it done, I'm going to take like half the clothes and twice the money. Like put together whatever process you're going to put for this project, and then assume you need twice as many communication touch points as whatever that was. And I think that's how we get to that place where everybody can live with whatever the final thing is. So thank you for coming and sticking with it. Thanks everybody else for coming here. Really appreciate having everybody.
This is the most cordial, large crowd that we've ever had.
Yeah, that's true.
Lords for coming.
Okay. All right, folks. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. We should have a little chat about the future agenda. And kind of what our takeaways are from tonight. And then we will get out of here. Yeah, I know, I see that. Got 10 degrees warmer on this side of the. All right, let me come over there. There's a lot going on. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so Harbor, what's our take?
So is camping still a possibility up there?
Really?
We're not done with the meeting. Get out of here. We're having a meeting. I'll see you on the trail. All right.
All right. All right, so for Harbor, what's our take? Okay, right, yeah, we voted on it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Fantastic. All right, so.
Somebody's got to draft up a summary and I'm glad to start it. Kimberly, do you want to be on the team drafting up comments on notes on the meeting tonight?
Why don't we just call for?
Or is that too much? I know we have to catch up on minutes.
Gus and I are going to start drafting something up.
What's the purpose? I'm a little confused.
We
Sorry.
want to be on record as to what the community feedback was, so there's no doubt what the GGNRA has heard.
I'm working on catching up on all the minutes, and maybe I can just put these minutes together and that can help you with the summary, because I took extensive notes on each comment.
All right, great. If you can, that's great.
Thank you. What's your timeline?
We're just gonna take a 5 minute.
We're going to take a
Back and talking about future agenda items. So,
so you already did something about the school?
I already communicated to the school district.
Okay. What'd you hear?
Really nothing.
Nothing.
But they know about the problem. I mean, it was. So, well, maybe we should close the windows while I'm talking.
No,
it's all right.
What's time?
So do we want, Sunny has good pictures. Do we want her picture?
They already have, then the two pictures are already in the hands of the school district. So,
Okay.
what I would like to see is have it agendized for next meeting.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yes, that's what we were just discussing. Yeah, but so we'd like to have them if we could.
Who?
Somebody from the parallel or from the
Somebody from the school.
district.
So it gets really complicated because the school district is in charge, and now they have to deal with,
The Division of State Architects.
exactly
Through somebody from them.
through a middleman. That's
Through a
how I
middleman.
see it.
Well, that's their problem, really.
Yeah.
Right. So I think our goal should be.
Get a BB gun.
I think our goal should be to be, really clear on what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what we recommend.
Okay, so all right, so who are we are we inviting somebody to come and speak here next time? And if so,
I'd say the
We
superintendent.
could, yeah, we could invite,
And Roger, whose last name I can't pronounce, but it's something like Anchar, who's
Yeah,
a hired
I think that would
guy,
be-
project manager for these things. We can invite both and they decide who comes or if anybody.
yeah, I think,
Correct. But he reports to the school.
now,
board.
Yeah.
Bring the school board. And
Well,
they
now-
can tell their people
Keep
to
in mind,
fix it.
keep in mind, the school board people are like us. They rely on staff. Roger's the staff guy who knows these projects in and out. The new superintendent or somebody else would be great. It's going to be their decision. We'll just extend an invitation.
Yes.
We could ask the superintendent to bring whoever she feels is necessary to solve this problem.
yeah,
right. Andrew, who has our contact?
I do.
The superintendent's one?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Do you want to send me, do you want to send me an invite or do you want me to do it? You just send me your contact.
I'll send you her contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one agenda item.
Okay, great. So
And the other one would be, I recommend follow up on tonight's GGNR meeting.
Okay,
And
that's
and
two.
I and you will work on some notes so that we present something in writing to register the community's concerns.
That sounds great. Let me just, let's make a note to make.
And the third potential agenda item would be the MCC communications policy, but I just don't want to put anything more on Kimberly's plate until she's willing to say she's ready to do it.
Well,
Yeah, there's.
Oh, remember, who was going to finish those things up?
Kimberly and me.
Okay.
so while Gus is typing away there, did I make a Brown Act error by only sending the financial report to Gus?
No. You did well within the Brown Act. You said that
Okay.
less people than were authorized, which is okay.
Okay,
But you can just see the problem that it caused because none of us knew that the report existed or had seen it.
Right.
Okay.
It didn't,
because I didn't know.
look, I saw it come and I looked there, and I was, oh, it looks good, great. And like went on to the next thing.
The fact that it was an agendized item means it could have been posted on the public website for discussion.
Okay,
And that's what we should do at the next meeting.
okay,
So if you could have said to either Gus or Greg, please make sure this.
okay.
So
Otherwise,
first up will be
Okay.
on school lighting. And then the second. Follow up on GGN. Okay. So I'm not gonna remember that like tomorrow.
It's already on the spreadsheet.
We have-
It's in the little, I just made the draft agenda.
We have some overarching problems that we need to look at, but I don't know if we need to talk about right now.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about right now. Do we? Is there anything else we need to talk about right now?
Hearing none.
Wait,
Wait,
just quickly, I will still be remote for the next meeting, and then I expect to be back in person in September.
Okay.
I think I'm coming up on my maximum number of absences according to AB 2449, but I'm not sure if I'm interpreting it correctly. And I think it may require a vote of the council. So maybe we need to look into that and figure out what I need to do next time.
Yeah, she has a point. All we have to do is vote
Right.
to accept her participation as remote and allow her to participate as a voting member.
Right.
So that's easily handled.
Yep, it's easily handled. Yeah, I've done that on the transportation. before.
Okay, so we'll do that at the next meeting.
Yes, yeah, we make a note that we need to just like immediately at the start. That's kind of the first thing we have to do.
Okay. Okay, good. And just quickly, I apologize for being not very helpful for the last 2 months. I'm in over my head right now. And caregiving has been a lot more than I bargained for. So I'm so sorry that I haven't pulled my weight in the last few weeks.
But you'll be back soon.
I will be back.
There'll be plenty of weight for you to pull when you can. There's no shortage of
I'm
weight.
getting a feeling that an adjournment
Yeah.
motion.
But I see Sid's
Is it
hand is
automatic
raised.
by me?
Sid,
Like
you have something you can do in under 60 seconds because we all want to go home.
Yeah, you didn't mention anything about the 3 vacancies. I guess some people are leaving the MCC, but are you going
We decided not to talk about right now, Sid.
Okay, and the other thing is, I've been mentioning to Gus since July 4th that they have a new captain on the coast side. And there's been 2 major accident fatalities. I think you should try to invite him at some point
Yes, that is
to
a
come to address.
promise. We will invite him, but yeah, like we've just been so backed up with. I mean,
At least reach out because you don't know what his schedule's like.
With that captain, so.
Yeah. We'll bring him. I mean, just we should know him, and he should he should have a chance to introduce himself to the community. I don't want to like be like, hey, come and see us like 5 months from now when we actually have a spot.
Well, you just squeeze the Montero lighting in after not having him come in. I'm just saying, I really don't know if they're really giving us much patrol up here on the North Coast. It seems like they give all the juice to Half Moon Bay, but that's all right. We'll see how many more fatalities we have before he comes down this way.
He has nothing to do with it.
I'm signing off. Bye.
Good night, Sid.
Night.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Awesome. Great.
Yay.
Acclamation. Great. We're done.